What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV and our coverage of Amazon Prime's The Wheel of Time. So this is going to be episode 7, the curiously named Daes Dae'mar, which means the Game of Houses, which we've talked about in a couple other episodes. This kind of is what it is. Like at this point, we're not really going to get into why or our opinions on that. We will get into our opinions on this episode as a whole. If you are a Bingetown loyal listener, which seems like they are growing every week, which we appreciate all of the support on both Twitter. I refuse to call it X, even though my phone, when I search the app, Twitter doesn't come up. I have to search X, which is kind of grinding my gears. And YouTube, of course, all of your comments, everything means so much to us. Discord, all of that kind of stuff. We try to get to it as much as we can. The support has been kind of overwhelming, honestly. Season 1 support was a lot of fun. You guys have just kind of ratcheted up a notch. Season 2, hopefully, obviously, keeps going in season 3, but we still have 2 episodes to talk about before we get there. So let's get into episode 7. Classic Bingetown housekeeping is just that we cover these episodes in buckets. Typically, they're by location. So this episode is going to be, we'll talk about Aviendha and Perrin just on their little Toman Head road trip. We'll do Falme, and then we'll have little sub-buckets in Falme, and then we'll do Cairhien, everything that happens in Cairhien. That's obviously the Smash finale that we're going to want to talk about, I'm sure, the most. That's the most wow moments essentially happen there. So, without further ado, road tripping. So, Aviendha and Perrin, they kind of have crossed the continent. Or, I'm sorry, they've moved on from Atuan's Mill. Hopper's still with them. They come upon 2 other Aielmen, 2 Maidens of the Spear. We get their names not audibly, but we get them in the subtitles, and then the X Factor, X-ray type of stuff. It's Bane and Chiad. We'll learn them as we go on. They are characters that will come back. They take the Aviendha and Perrin to a third body, and they have a bit of an interesting mourning ritual. So there's kind of 2 scenes that happen here. We can talk about all of it. They come upon Falme, all of the water. We learn a lot more, I think, or at least we get reinforced more about the IO culture here. So just the floor is completely open.
Let me just open it up by saying, since we're recording this a little bit later than normal and we didn't have to watch the screeners for this was my first time watching with subtitles in years. Baby. And I'm mind blown just by how the spelling of a lot of these names are. Like, it's just like my world is now completely opened up to, like, I feel like a true Wheel of Time expert now that I can actually like write names down. I don't have to just write my bullshit. Yeah.
We love Dave's spelling bee corner.
I was like, is that how you spell Aiel? And is that how you're supposed to die? I had so many extra letters in there. It was crazy.
The Sedai you should have known from last time, but Aiel, what did you think it was spelled that? Because we should have asked that. I would have been curious to you guys how you would have.
It keeps getting flipped, like the I's and the E's keep getting flipped, but I think I have it consistently as Aiel, maybe Aiel.
Or maybe never spell it the same twice. It's different every time, but it's usually like, I think I spelled Aiel like Ayheel or something like that. So
okay,
who was
one I've given up on is Ammerlin. I know, like, if I need to sit down and spell it, I could spell it. When I'm taking notes, I'm just
my
letters they are in any combination, but
you have it, and I have it literally wrote as Amy Lynn. Like, I'm just typing. Yeah,
I have a brain aneurysm every time I try and type Nynaeve, so I just type N.
I'm good on that one. No, I'm Nynaeve. I spell it just Nynaeve in my head, like Wednesday. That's the way I think of it.
Yeah.
Getting back to the actual content, I was really loving the Perrin episode. I love that we're getting so many more Aiel. It's great seeing how his abilities are kind of relating to the Aiel, like especially with how he noticed the 2 women in the sand or whatever in the desert, whatever they were in, and even the Aiel, what's her name again?
Aviendha.
Even she was like, oh, that was good for,
a wetlander.
Yeah. So just really cool, this interaction here. I was totally confused by them kicking the shit out of Aviendha. Definitely. I had no idea what was going on. But then on the second scene, when they're kind of walking with Perrin, and she's like, I really like how she's like, don't make me feel the disrespect again, but I'll explain to you why they kicked my ass. And I thought it was a really great moment for like getting into the Aiel culture. And this kind of ties in a little bit with how I accidentally kind of called them savages an 2 episodes ago, because I mean, I'm sure as someone who for Perrin saw this and was like, oh yeah, brutal savagery. And maybe this is kind of where you make the ties. Like, I can see why people think they're so aggressive, but just great for the culture. And I definitely have respect for all Aiel people. And I guess my one question is, are the women the ass kickers in like the Aiel because we've only ever seen women, right? I don't, besides Rand.
I kind of want to leave a lot of this out there for the show.
Sorry, I just talked so much. Yeah.
No, it's fine. You're asking valid questions. We're going to get a lot more into the maidens that we just kind of got introduced to there. Like, do you remember when they were doing their hand talk?
Yeah.
That's a very specific language amongst the maidens of the spear. But I don't want to really like get into the nitty gritty of the Aiel itself and let you guys kind of experience it as the show gives it to us. Because we also could be wrong and they could be doing their own little changes here. But this is like a subsection. Kyle kind of explained it. I think it was probably 2 ago when Aviendha was actually in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, like, this is like a very famous part of the Aiel culture is the Maidens of the Spear, and they're all badasses. They can all fight like Aviendha, and they do this.
There's different warrior societies, and this is just like the women's warrior society is the Maidens of the Spear. Yeah,
that's what I figured.
We'll meet way more characters, and like Luke said, the show is going to teach us a ton. So this is just essentially the Maidens of the Spear are one society.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think about the whole time is like, man, I hope Hopper's feet aren't burning right now in the sand.
Yeah, if it's too hot for you, it's too hot for him.
I'm so worried. So it's funny because this toe thing, the way they just like fulfill it, and it was a really cool explanation. Like, hey, it was my fault. You know, I was protecting her back, and you know, she got killed, so it's my fault. It's like I think of like our friend Anthony, like, you know, he had a bad night one night and he needed some help, and like the next morning he comes back with beer. And, like I could just
you
picture
could tell him the bad
like,
night when he threw up all over me.
Fulfilled my toe. Like, here's the beer. I fulfilled my toe.
Eagles Day's on the next day, and he just brings over a case of beer. Friends for life.
Yeah. So it's toe is just like a really cool concept, and the whole honor system of it too. And like Dave was saying, like when it's disrespectful to bring it up, but yeah, it's just really cool. Aiel culture in general. Excited to get more of it.
Yeah, you guys are going to absolutely love it. I don't have much to add. I'm just hyped that the convergence is happening. Everybody's pretty much in place for the finale. And this was a big part of Perrin and Aviendha getting there. So that's going to be cool. And then shout out to any of the book listeners for that name drop of Bane and Chiad. So,
I was just about to bring up
Bane and Chiad came up. They didn't mention, for some reason, I'm mixing them up with having of mentioned some of the wise ones, but never, or not the wise ones, the wise ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's also sorry. But yeah, Bane and Chiad.
Bane's trying to bang Perrin, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. I guess how I took it is because maybe they're women dominated in this section of the Aiel culture. Like, I guess they're just like horny as shit for men all the time.
They have interesting marriage customs that we will learn much more about. I think one way so Bane is like the larger, I would say, more muscular woman.
Mm-hmm.
Chiad's just kind of the more slender, maybe potentially agile woman. Really nothing there. They'll get reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to slide into our ever-expanding encyclopedia of characters, which is just classic Wheel of Time.
Cool to put a face to them for us, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These are like big. It's just like really cool that they're in the show at this point. One thing I want to call it that I love a lot is the Aiel ideal, of like dying and death, and how Aviendha says life is a dream from which we all must wake. That was one of my favorite parts of their like culture and custom from the book, is that they're really not afraid of dying. They just think, you know, it's a lot of cultures have the idea of it's just, you know, you're moving on to the next life. And their ideal is that like being alive right now is like you're actually in a dream. So like the true purpose almost is like you die and then you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's so like they don't have that level of fear in them. That's probably why they are so fierce and why they're such like renowned warriors. I just love that little small part of their culture. That was really fun. And I loved how Hopper is like freaking out while this is happening, and the subtitle just keeps going, Hopper continues barking, which I thought was really funny. And this is like a not a big book change, but this is quite the book change. This is actually a book 3 storyline that Perrin's not involved in. I believe I've mentioned this before. Not a huge deal, but it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of return it to the original storyline, because it's really supposed to be like Elayne and Nynaeve meet the girls and the Maidens of the Spear type of deal. So it's just going to be interesting how they decide to introduce that relationship in a different way. We'll just obviously keep our eye out. We will see what happens.
I like Aviendha's line when they finally get to Falme, and she's like, "This is all water."
Yeah.
How? Like she was just like blown away that there was this much in one spot.
That's like for me, this episode is really different from the books, but there's a lot of little things thrown in like that. Like when Nynaeve and them meet these Maidens of the Spear for the first time in book 3, they're next to a river and they're like really apprehensive about the river. And they're like, oh my God, like we've never seen so much water. So the fact that they like the meeting and how it's happening is way different from the books, but they're still getting those small little story beats of like, they're like kind of afraid of the ocean and so shocked at how much water it is. Like that's fun that they're still doing that.
For some reason, I totally took them saying that as this water didn't used to be here. I don't know why I thought that, but yeah.
They've never seen that much water before ever.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that much water pretty much scares them. If you've never seen water, you can't swim, obviously. So
it's like Silo. It's like Silo.
Yeah.
When they see Wilo, the water. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what the fuck? All right. So we're going to move into our next location, which is going to be Falme, which essentially is where Perrin, Aviendha, Bane, and Chiat arrive across kind of the bay from, whatever you want to say. So the first character bucket we're going to tackle within Falme is just Mat. So Mat obviously technically starts in Cairhien, just wandering around like a little lost puppy. We left him when he kind of abandoned Ran. That turns to him getting knocked the fuck out, which presumably happens by Lanfear as he wakes up in Falme. To his surprise, to my surprise, I'm sure to everyone's surprise, he's just kind of in Falme. Maybe before we get into like a lot of the scenes, just kind of curious at like the takes of like him meeting Lanfear, this conversation, the fact that he's just now in Falme. Like, what was our initial thoughts on all this happening?
He even says like, "How'd I get here?" And she responds, "That's my little secret."
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a terror on Grial or something like that, or unless they use the ways, but I feel like he would have waken up like during that journey and stuff like that. So
as Luke smirks.
Yeah, so
yeah, shout out to the comment section.
Some dope teleportation thing, or I don't really know, but yeah, waking up and seeing Lanfear, I'd be like, all right, I like where this is going. I like where this is going.
Who in the name of the light are you?
Yeah, that was really great. I did not expect to see these two interacting so early on. My first thoughts were, wow, I guess a lot of our main characters just love getting knocked out by just like unsuspecting people coming behind them and just bashing their heads against the wall.
And dragged to Falme.
Yeah, and then getting dragged to Falme.
Everyone's just getting dragged over to this spot pretty much, yeah. I originally thought this was in the dream world. He even says, like, am I dreaming? And they have those big like stone seals around the fireplace that I guess I was always interpreting like, because we've seen Lanfear kind of come out of one of those seals, quote unquote. I always thought that they were like our like kind of visual cue that we're in the dream world, because like Ishamael's goal maybe is to get all the Forsaken out, and that's like his like mental manifestation of a goal type of thing. But it seemed like they're actually there, so I'm very curious to see what is going on with those big stone slabs that are just hanging out.
I feel like that was a good question, though, by Matt asking if this is a dream. I feel like it's just very important to be able to start deciphering what's a dream and what's real.
Which is probably a complete coincidence for him, because he knows, he knows nothing about he knows nothing about the greater implications of that question, especially who he's asking it to.
I honestly thought it was a dream when she opens the windows. If the tower wasn't there, like that Falme tower wasn't there, I would have just assumed it was a dream, because he like opens it up and it's like the water is like glistening, it's like beautiful. I'm like, where the hell?
Well, I mean, technically, if he was sleeping in Cairhien and she took him to Falme during the day, like you see the world as it is still at that time. So like, but I'm on team he's there.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's there, but I'm not even 100% sold on it, because we were talking about this earlier. Like, hey, if you get knocked out, does that count as you sleeping? And if he's sleeping and Lanfear's like right there, she can just teleport him to Falme and get Ishi to fuck with him in the dream. So
yeah,
I want to say because of how extended the period of time it was that he's actually there, but I'm not going to be like completely shocked next episode if he wakes up and he's not in Falme.
After these comments, I'm like this is like real time just happening for me right now, where I'm just kind of hoping that the show starts making it more clear. Like, you can have one or two fake outs if we're in the real world or the dream world, but if this is going to be a constant theme for the average person watching this show for the whole series, I don't necessarily think I like it, because while this one can work perfectly, like, is it the dream world or not? If this is something we're constantly questioning anytime, not just when Lanfear's around, when anybody is around, because we already know like Lanfear can do whatever she wants in the dream world, this is making me a little nervous now that we're like talking about it at this level,
Yeah.
because like everything we can just have that. Is this a dream world? Is this real? And I don't really think Wheel of Time is meant to be like that, but this specific scene, I'm totally on board. It could be either, but I'm team it's real.
Kyle talked about this before. When Ishii is infiltrating dreams, he does kind of glitch a little bit because it's like his mastery of it isn't there. So he wasn't glitching in
That's a
this
good point.
next scene. So, maybe you could say he is really there because Ishii's not that good, but I don't know.
And I would have to maybe go back to like him and Surath talking, and I'm sure someone knows for sure, but that was maybe in Surath's room, so like the big stone slabs weren't there. The stone slabs are just throwing me off. That's about it. I think they've done a good job of where we know it's a dream or not. Like Rand has all the Emmonsfield 5 murdered around him, and it's like, okay, this is obviously not the real world type.
There
of deal,
hasn't been
so-
a fake out yet.
yeah. So
Which is fine.
Well, the only one that I'm thinking of, this is not even a big deal, was when Moiraine dies. That was like the only one really, though. But I agree with Kyle. My comment was going to be that I feel like they have emphasized like how ridiculous, I guess, the dream world can get. Like it never has felt like the real world except for that one instance.
yeah,
I agree.
And we had only really been in this room, him being Ishamael and Lanfear talking. Again, I'll say for the last time, we can move on. The slabs. There's something going on with the slabs.
The slabs.
All
You
right.
gotta watch
so-
out for these motherfucking slabs, now.
Dude, the
I don't know.
slabs. So moving on from the slabs, we get to Ishamael kind of shows up now and he's in the room. He brews Matt a little tea as they chat about Ishamael's kind of existential crisis, his nihilism, which Matt isn't too interested in, but he does eventually take the tea. So I think we can maybe talk about all of it. I mean, there's kind of 3 parts. It's Ishamael kind of goes on and on and on about what he thinks. Matt takes the tea, has a terrible trip, which some of us here might be familiar with.
Whoa,
and then,
guys.
and then they kind of have a conversation afterwards, which you could say Matt's maybe a little more malleable. So I would say those are the 3 big kind of parts. Talk about them probably in order if we want to, but obviously there's really no rules. We're just hanging out.
I'm going to steal a little something that you guys did on the Succession pod where you guys had the quote of the episode. And I'm going to say my quote of the episode was Matt going, "Is this a sex thing or a murder thing?" Either way, I'd rather you skip the talking. He's the best. He's so like
he's
witty
funny.
and
Yeah.
quick. He's awesome. Speaking of Matt, we were talking about difficulty spelling, like all the women's name, Moiraine, Egwene, Nynaeve. It's like Matt, Rand, like even Perrin isn't that hard to
Yeah.
spell. Like
Lan.
yeah, like it's very very different. But back to this scene. I love the way that we get more of Ishii's motives. It's hard to tell if he's telling the truth because he is the father of lies, and I am sketchy about that now. But it kind of matches his ideals of what he was saying to Lanfear as well. When they were having that conversation about so many people suffering, and I just want it to stop. I want to break the wheel. I want to close my eyes finally. The one line, humanity's forgotten so much since my time. Not all of it technology. And he's just talking about the tea.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, the tea. What is it?
Always gets the good quotes. I'm pissed.
yeah,
just-
someone else step in. Someone else step in.
Yeah. Just fucking
Dave,
Ishii.
I have,
Talk
a
about
quote, I, have
tripping on
I have a
tea.
quote later. I'm taking it. I don't care if anybody's in the middle of a sentence. I'm taking it. But I'll put a pin in that.
I appreciate the heads up.
The only 2 notes I really had for here was that, Ishii proclaiming that he's had the tea before, to which, he also says that he got the best night of he slept in for like the first time in his life when he had the tea for the first time. So just some parallels between Matt and Ishii here, because I've been talking about how Matt's been definitely creeping down the dark side more blatantly than the other ones have. And then the only other thing that I'm thinking of here is Ishii keeps talking about how the wheel keeps spinning us, like we have lived this cycle multiple times, yada yada yada. And then it's just got me thinking about like all the visions that Min's been seeing. Like, sure, we've seen visions of Matt killing Rand, but what if that was like a different iteration of the wheel, maybe one that has either happened already or one that hasn't happened yet? Just kind of something that I'm thinking about. But the way he was describing about how the wheel keeps spinning us just made it feel a little bit more like not like timelines, but we get stuck in this loop where we just keep repeating it over and over again. And obviously that's what Paul was saying, that Ishii wants to break that and just completely end that. But just thought it was thinking on all the visions that Matt's had, and then him talking to Matt about all this just got me thinking that maybe the visions that Min's been seeing are just different iterations of the wheel, and they won't actually happen maybe in this one. Just, I guess, potential. It's so hard to explain. Like, I don't want to say timelines, but I don't know.
It's a really interesting thing too now in hindsight. If you go back to season 1 and listen to the conversation that Perrin has with the Way of the Leaf, the Jesus, what are the Tinkers? Because it talks about the turning of the wheel. Like, that scene gets more and more powerful the more distant we get from it, and the more information we get from some of these entities that are self-aware of the wheel and have lived countless lives. So like, this scene kind of goes in parallel with that, talking about that. But couple things I wanted to point out, just that you guys pretty much hit everything, positive and a negative. The positive being, I love what you were saying, Paul, about Ishi's philosophy as just like a Darkfriend or like a Forsaken keeps coming out and keeps getting reinforced. And in a vacuum, it's like a very basic, unnuanced opinion of just, let's end it. Let's end this wheel. But when you couple that with the idea that not all of the other Forsaken are going to have the same mindset, it just fleshes out like the dark side even more. Like, they're not all going to have the same idea and goals.
Like, we
even
have the
though they
one
have like
basic
a high level goal.
Like, we have the one basic goal with Ishi, even though he's a very complicated character.
And it's pure when it's like add it with these other ones. Like, I like it a lot when you add it to like Lanfear. It doesn't want to. I don't think she wants to break the wheel. Like, that's not her thing.
She just wants to lose penis, baby.
So each of these guys are gonna have their own, and it's cool that Ishi, who like is the strongest Forsaken, like has that such a pure intent. So I like that a lot. And now what I didn't like, and I guess this is basically geared towards Kyle, is I thought the tea was incredibly weak. I saw the one flash was okay. I know we're probably thinking about the same interesting piece of that, but like, other than that, I really didn't like it. I didn't think even the average viewer, I don't think, would have gotten much out of that.
Oh, I absorbed legitimately nothing of any of his visions.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. Like, we see him, and Dave, you've been pretty good of like keeping track of, or really taking to heart this reinforcement of Matt's like potential tendency, affinity for the shadow, for darker things. I mean, we just kind of see him, he's hung in the mirror. We see him drowning someone, we see him stabbing someone. We're getting this reinforcement of his mom, the line she has in season 1 where she's like, whatever, you'll end up just like him, damn prick, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the tea is weird. The idea of what they're getting at is like very essential and cool. And like, when I really think about it, back to the books, like, there wasn't a great explanation of it. So like, this is an interesting way to like visualize it, a catalyst for it, whatever you want to call it. It just is like, the tea feels weird. It feels like not necessarily unearned. It's just kind of like, it's just a weird concept.
You need the book context to even take anything out of it. Like, for me and you, I got a lot out of that.
Yeah, I understand for sure.
No way anybody else does. It's impossible. It's not even like you have to be a tedious TV watcher. It was impossible. So I felt like that, coupled with the fact that the opportunity cost of what that might have taken away is a problem for book readers.
I think it's going to be a slower burn. This feels like breadcrumb 1.
Sure, but
type of deal.
Yeah, there's some scenes that people were expecting this to be that aren't. And I know where I'm just talking through TV watchers, but like, I don't know. This is a controversial topic, I think, online right now. Like, it's the most controversial in a while for Wheel of Time, which is a positive, honestly.
All over some tea. That's crazy.
It's like, kind of weird in the sense of like, and also, I mean, the one perspective from me, I could see, like, I'm like, okay, like, why would Ishamael do this? But it's also, he's this fucking chaos guy. Like, he's just fucking, he has them all in his grasp. He does what he wants. And even in this end, when he kind of says, he kind of comes to his aid, he's kind of like his trip doctor, his trip shaman, and is like stroking his face, and it's like, it's all good. He's trying to instill this nihilism back into him, and he's like, the only truth is suffering, and like, even with the freedom of death, we just come back again and again. And he's trying to show Matt, like, no matter what happens in all your lives, like, it's going to be misery and pain and suffering. And like Dave said, like, all I want to do is close my eyes one day and never have to open them again. And Matt, after seeing all of this, is like quite receptive to it. He literally, the last line in the scene is how.
He's got him.
They're really, yeah, they're pushing him in this way, and it's interesting and it's different. But this for me was something when I watched the episode the first time and was kind of looking back on it, I was kind of like, how this is kind of something I'm questioning,
Yeah,
maybe. And I haven't really made me question a ton in a while. This episode as a whole was so different from the books. Like this was like the culmination almost of all of the different changes they've made, and it's really kind of come to a head almost, which makes sense towards the end of the season where everything needs to get tied back together. I don't necessarily not like everything. This was something where I was kind of falling back into the, okay, I guess we'll see where this goes type of mindset.
He is Raymundo from Shaolin Showdown. I think we talked about this maybe
Yeah,
before.
we totally
But
have.
I just this episode totally reminded me of it when he goes, "How?" I'm like, dude, he's on the hook. He's got him.
Yeah.
Very few other things. All the Forsaken might not have the same ideals, but they definitely all have the same tailor because what Ishii was wearing here looks so good. Even just like the elevated collar with all the black wiring, it looked like Lanfear's outfits as well. That was great. I loved how it showed Matt after he took the tea, like standing up from the chair like 5 times. I thought that was like a really good shot.
Classic weed brownie reaction too, where he was like, "All right, it's bullshit," and then he stands up and he's like, "Whoa!"
I immediately thought of the Westworld episode.
These edibles ain't shit.
Yeah, that was.
Legitimately couldn't think of that. Yeah.
It could have also just like showed how much it was affecting him and like how like they were talking about the iterations of the wheel and seeing past lives. So it was almost like, multiple stands up because of multiple different lives. Whatever. That's going super. Oh my God, I can't think of the word, and I'm just gonna move on. So anyway, the last thing I was going to say was
okay,
and now I'm so thrown off.
I was like, oh, you got it. What I'll say is that, just I guess to wrap up my thoughts for kind of, this is like I said, Breadcrumb 1. This is such a cool fucking part of the books, and I'm really excited for it. And I think the odds are it doesn't feel maybe great for book readers, maybe TV watchers are a little like, where the hell is this coming from type of deal. But I think once we get solidified into where it's going, we'll look back and be like, okay, this was like an interesting start to it, and we're gonna love the thread that it is. It just maybe wasn't my ideal start to set thread.
I remember what it was going to be real quick. It's edited super quick. I don't know how to take Matt taking the tea. Like he was sitting next to it. It almost seemed like he was anxious, like he wanted to do it. But the way he picks it up and puts it back down, it's like he's hesitant because he knows he should be a little bit worried about it. But the way he downs it, like I couldn't tell if he was like, I really want to know my past lives, or if he was like, just get it over with. But the way I took it initially was like he really wanted to know who he was, but that kind of directly contradict or well, I guess that's the very opposite. He wants to know who he was, and when he was talking to Mint, he didn't want to know his future or something like that. So
I mean, maybe something in the middle of that is that since he had that initial thought, he has found out his future, which is killing Rand. So maybe he's like, what the hell is going on? Maybe I need to find out more. That's maybe a little devil's advocate take there.
I just liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Very little things in Matt's scene that really made me like him a lot.
Can we just get some clarification on like what does he describe the tea actually as? Like, what is it supposed? What does he say? Does he just tell Matt to take it, or does he say like this is supposed to
shows you things, your past lives, all the people you used to be?
Yeah, 1,000 years, and through all of that, the real one.
Seems super weird to show his mom. I was like, so was his mom last life? Like, I don't get that.
Yeah, that was I guess trying to like really harp on that idea and run the thread back to season 1 of like maybe he's always destined to be like his dad and be this asshole and be this prick type of deal. Because he's really the only one, maybe not the only one, but like that was something in season 1 where it was like, is Matt just kind of along this path that like he actually can't escape, where he's just like gonna be a dickhead basically.
I mean, it just shows him being miserable in all the tea, and he wakes up and she's like, yeah, we can end this. Of course he's like, yeah, I don't want to go through that. Let me just end it.
I am predicting that Matt is an MVP or LVP next episode for at least one of us. Guarantee. Yeah. Put it on the board. I don't know which one, but he's going to be one or the other.
And I also will know for sure that Donald is going to kill it, whatever they give him, because he's been fucking awesome as Matt. Okay. So moving into Elayne and Nynaeve. So they have kind of 2 shortest scenes, kind of 3 combined. So they are kind of wandering through the marketplace in Falme, doing their thing. Elayne, Miguel takes charge and is like, listen to me and do exactly as I say, which was fun to watch Nynaeve's reaction to.
Totally turned on.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say the same.
Yeah. And then they run into Loyal, which is a fucking fantastic reunion for him and Nynaeve, and then a fantastic first interaction between him and Elayne. So just kind of thoughts about everything that happens here.
Oh, it was just such a genuine and cute interaction. I literally love this. Just coming off that depressing ass episode we just got last episode, like seeing this kind of interaction made me feel really good. It was just great how Nynaeve just cuts off Loyal because he knows he's just going to be like kind of talking too much. He's like,
your name's
your
in his
name's
ears.
Yeah.
so great. And I loved it. And I love that even like she calls out Elayne too. She's like, "You're loving this. Like, just stop it." Like, she's sitting there, like, "Yeah, what do you mean? I'm the."
He bows to her and everything. Yeah,
she's great. She definitely, I love her. I can officially say that this episode she was amazing, and I'm definitely Team Elayne now.
Put it on the board.
She's awesome.
I was ready to walk into this episode and say, I admit it. Last episode, I went from liking Elayne to really liking. I'm just full on in love with her.
This was
so
the episode
for
me that I love Elayne.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I was kind of mad Nynaeve didn't let Loyal say your name sings in my ears, but you
Shut
know,
up, bitch, take a back seat.
No, I think it's good because they don't get to do it in the show, but in the books, like it's so much more obvious that every time Loyal talks, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So this was I honestly thought this was a great Nynaeve episode, like for what little screen time she got.
The whole
scene
patience
and then
thing.
and the knocking out of the Sul'dam at the end was like, or the collaring, like all of that. I thought Nynaeve killed it actually.
Yeah, I mean, we already know that Ogiers are like, humans, like no patience whatsoever. So
Always Russian.
Yeah, leans into that. I can't wait to steal this cool line from Luke that he wanted to talk about. Elayne and Nynaeve are talking about how the Shan, they're like, wow, they just conquered the city and the people don't seem that upset. You know, you wouldn't even be able to tell. And that was kind of going into what Luke was talking about when we first got introduced to the Shan when, you know, Uno died. They kind of take the O's and then they're like, all right, cool. We'll let you be then. And then they just kind of go off, and Shan don't really they don't interfere with your life really, as long as you just are chill with what they say. So kind of paints that picture a little bit too, and that helps go into the Shan's goal and the Empress's goal later on in the episode. And we'll talk about that. But yeah, I only have 3 notes about this scene, and one of them was Elayne telling Nynaeve what to do is hot. That was just oh my god.
Well, it helps that also Elayne is just hot. So one thing they mentioned, they being loyal, is he just name drops the Death Watch, just an important kind of Shan little squad within like their military type of thing. We'll get more about them. Just was nice for me, kind of sat me up a little bit straighter when he said it. The Death Watch Guard is definitely a big part of Shan culture. And Luke mentioned, obviously, the last little scene in their bucket is them placing that Adom on an unsuspecting Sul'dam. Just Nynaeve's line of like, this looks like it'll fit or whatever, and just puts it on her, and then Elayne just knocks her the fuck out, was just like fantastic. That was just so perfect.
The best Wonder Girls scene.
Yeah, Elayne just comes to her at the end with a little club, knocks her ass. Let's get it. We can kind of maybe imagine what we're getting there, but whatever.
I'm just a little confused because we were talking about what would happen if you put a collar on somebody that couldn't touch or channel, and we were like, oh, it just wouldn't work. And we were kind of talking about how the Sul'dam are not, well, we originally were like seemed and thought that they weren't channelers and they were just able to control them. So it'll be interesting to see if the Sul'dam can actually touch the one power and like can kind of channel. And then what they're doing about damane, they're just like being hypocritical completely. Like that would just be an interesting aspect because I don't really understand everything else beyond it. But obviously, hopefully we'll get some answers next episode. So maybe it's just the same thing. You just can't use a weapon.
Do you have a take
on what is
what's going to happen like
with the collar?
Yeah, just like
and
in
everything.
General. You just posed a bunch of questions, throw an answer out there, just so if you have to put it on the board.
I mean, you have been tiptoeing around this idea of can the Sul'dam channel, can they not? It's weird they do the hand signals. Do they need to do the hand signals?
Yeah. I want to say that they really are channeling, and the Empress is just lying to them and telling them that like, oh, like these other damane, they're not like worthy or whatever. So I want to say yes, they are kind of like touching it, maybe in like a different approach than like flowing in the water or whatever. But I want to say yes, they're fucking with the power a little bit.
That would be quite the shake up to their culture.
Dave, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
shatter their minds. And
Yeah, you
they'll
want to
be
talk
like,
about hypocrites.
yeah.
Anytime Paul says anything, I'm just like, yeah, sign me up. Sounds great. Like he
All
made a
right.
lot of sense there. Like if they were able to touch it in like a little bit and they're just hiding it from the damane, maybe it's all based on like a jealousy thing. Like why aren't we as powerful as them? It could be a bloodline thing. Like maybe because Egwene wasn't, birthed in whatever country they're from, they automatically imprison them.
Mhm.
So a lot of what Paul's saying, I feel like does push it, but if he had been talking about it the other way, I would have been like, oh yeah, like totally makes sense that they wouldn't have any ability to touch the one power.
One of the best YouTube comments we ever got was like kind of describing each of our roles on this podcast. Like they were like, yeah, Kyle's like such a good book expert. Luke's great support. Paul's the theory guy, and Dave's the energy.
I just
get
like
enthusiasm. And I was like, that just kind of got encapsulated right there. It was so good.
I'm
exactly
the hype up man. I'll hype up Paul's theories all day.
S tier. Okay. All right, getting into our final bucket, which actually flows quite well off of that conversation, because now we're getting legitimate Sildam, Adam, damane was the first word I was actually looking for, interactions here. So we get Egwene and Maigen's there as well. They're beginning, I guess, a little bit of damane training. They're kind of doing a little power level testing, which is kind of cool to see. They're at the outskirts of Falme. Egwene, our girl, puts on a fucking show, essentially, that they feel all the way back in Falme. So not a ton actually happens. It's really one thing, is Egwene being a beast. So just thoughts on her kind of blowing the competition away, actually, for lack of a better term.
This was one, definitely saw it coming that she was gonna like outperform. Did not know it was going to be so big that Loyal heard it like way back in the city. Just really cool. It's interesting because we did see that Egwene was able to quote unquote like attack the other Suldam and damane there, and it's kind of like shedding light on, all right, the damane can't attack, but if their Suldam wants them to attack somebody else, then they can. It's what it seems like, because she was able to hurt it. It's not like bound by oaths where like you can't hurt them or something like that. So going off of that with what Nynaeve and Elayne did, I don't know if they're just going to be able to have like the person in the collar just fight for them now.
Because Nynaeve, we didn't mention that, but Nynaeve has the thing on her wrist.
Yeah, and I don't know, the way they like link up, it seems like they're channeling, but I don't know if that's just part of the Terran Grial, like was infused with some shit or what. But I guess we'll get more of it because we can speculate on it all day. But when Egwene sent out that shockwave and they showed everybody reacting in the town, you guys see that cute little cat? Oh my god!
Yeah, I did actually.
I paused it and I was like, "Emily, get in here! Look at this."
That's
Wait,
great.
where's Peach? I gotta show you Peach.
That's so funny.
I'll say really quickly that I know we've been talking a lot of shit on like the pacifiers or whatever you want to call them, but to be honest, it's fucked up. But I think because seeing it on a character that I've already come to know and love, well, I guess maybe not love, but this episode, this episode, she made a huge jump for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I was just thinking that it is really demoralizing having them like have these pacifiers, because they're just not capable of speaking. And there we got the guest star.
Yo, Hubert, what a perfect advertisement for the fact that Huey, the cat, is named after Huey from The Boys, and we will be covering Gen V on the podcast from The Boys universe and Amazon Prime.
If you're not sick of me and Paul's energy and theories, go check it out.
Yeah,
it's coming
true.
soon. But
yeah,
the pacifiers definitely, I hate them even more now. Seeing them on Egwene really pissed me off, because like I know she is just a ball of energy and just wants to say things like she does later on, which is great. But it was really demoralizing seeing it on her. And my second comment will be that, yes, as much I love the power blow up, like that was just amazing. Kyle knows I love me a nice strong character.
Yeah.
But then I of course thought like, well, what if this was Nynaeve? Like, I would have loved to see what, and that would have probably pissed off
The city gets
obviously,
flattened.
Yeah, Egwene, that would have pissed off, like, even just
Can you
wondering
imagine?
that. Yeah.
Even
But
when they're damane and they're still like competing and she's getting upset, she's like, "This sucks. I hate Nynaeve."
But that was my other thought. Was like, I just wonder what Nynaeve's damage would have been, just if Egwene is like 1 in 1,000 and a Nynaeve is like 1 in 1,000,000 power. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the nuke was awesome. She is great. I voiced my opinion on. I love later Nynaeve. Sorry, not Nynaeve. I love later Egwene, and the fact that I like
We're
Egwene
getting
so
there.
much this early is great because I don't think I did when I was reading the books. Honestly, I didn't like most of our Emmenfield 5 besides Rand early on in the books, kind of by design, but we're getting to the
Perrin,
portion.
baby. Beast.
I wasn't even the biggest Perrin guy either, but like as
Crazy.
we're getting to the base of this world laid out, like this is when I really started to get attached to some of these non-Rand characters, and it's just great seeing glimpses of how strong Egwene is. And Rena, right? Rena?
Rena.
Rena. I'll let you could say a comment about that scene as well, Kyle, but I'm taking us through the
No, yeah, just take us right there. Don't
'cause
matter.
this is where the quote of the episode is, Paul.
Oh yeah. Not even here to. Oh,
Yeah.
there, yeah. There.
He
This-
pops right up.
Go to the episode.
This scene was fantastic for me because I had no idea how Egwene was going to react to this conversation because Rena was so pleased with that presentation of power out there in front of all the other Sean-Chen that when she takes her back to the cell, she's trying to be real with her for a second. She's explaining what Paul mentioned or Dave mentioned about the Sean-Chen. Their goal is to unite everybody on the planet under the light, which is just a huge underlying theme of the Sean-Chen.
What up, Peach?
And then another cool part about it is that the Sean-Chen know about the last battle. She mentioned it here. She's like, it's coming. We need to make sure that we have all the pieces in place for the last battle. So it seems like from the average Sean-Chan's perspective, they are still like on Team Light and they are trying to return back to the continent, take it over like they're prophesized to, and then win the last battle. That's their whole goal. And she's like saying all these things. She's trying to indoctrinate Egwene into the culture. She feels like because they just succeeded in that presentation, that it's all going well. And she like looks at her and gives Egwene a chance to talk, and she goes, Rena, I will kill you. And it's just I was just so hyped, dude. I was so excited, especially with how mad Rena got because she thought she was making some progress, but you absolutely had nothing on my girl Egwene. So this was like I'm gonna ruin it now. That made Egwene the MVP of the episode for me. I was like,
yeah, that's fair.
So
done.
Luke's gonna go first, get his MVP out of the
exactly.
way. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
fair.
it makes my life easier because she was definitely
Dude,
in it for me.
The nuke plus I will kill you, like, whew.
Yeah. Dude, the look in her eye, like the intensity when she actually like lets all the power go out there, and like she's like breathing hard, and she has the little baby pacifier, and it felt like she just was gonna kill somebody right there. I was like,
and
oh
a
my
cute little
God.
nose, Kyle.
Yeah, dude, the cute little nose. I was about to go to war with her.
I thought that was going to be the moment of her escape. Like I thought she was just going to like power
that'd be
burst and like
crazy.
everyone was going to be knocked out and she would have made a move somehow.
Nah, that would weaken the items.
But I do love that quote even more because it's funny because at the end of watching, I think last episode, me and Alki had a conversation. He was just like kind of worried that he was kind of asking, like, oh, do you think Egwene was like really broken down? Like after all the events that happened, she looked really down in the dumps. And I was kind of like, I can't tell. I hope not. And this quote just doubled down on the fact that she is ready to put up a fight any moment if she needs to. Like the moment, like she can just, I feel like it just shows that she's able to switch back and forth between that mindset of like, I can kill you and still have like not pain around me.
Yeah,
It's
well,
also- go ahead.
to
Paul,
go
sorry.
off that, what you guys were talking about, like the "I will kill you" line, and Dave couldn't tell if she was down in the dumps. I thought Rena was making headway. I was like, oh my God, it's just, and we talked about a little bit about this before, but I was like, oh my God, it's just going to be like a Reek situation where a Nynaeve and Elayne come in and Egwene's like, no, like don't hurt Rena or something like that. But the way that she just dead stares her in the eyes and says, I will kill you. I was like, well, okay, that hits way harder because I had no idea what you were going to say.
Totally agree. That makes the quote so much better because even as a book reader, I was like, dude, what is happening right now? Like,
Yeah.
is she in? Is she in? But
Just braids her hair back up, thinking about ways she's going to kill her.
mm-hmm.
I have a question for Paul and Dave. How do we feel that they are like kind of tangentially on our team? Like they're like Team the Light, they want to fight the last battle. They say like we can only fight it together. You know, Lord Turok was like, I was sent here by the light type of deal. So like they're anti the shadow. Like Surath is obviously, he feels like an outlier within the Shan-Chan, but they're not obviously good people. So it's like an interesting kind of moral question. I'm just curious of what you guys think of the fact that like they kind of have our goal.
Well,
Well, maybe not Dave's goal, but like our, you know, the normal people watching the show's goal.
Take down the
Little
Percy.
flexes, yeah. Look, there's tiny little biceps on the shadow side.
No, I
Shadows.
totally agree. It's like they're on the same team, but they have like slightly different opinions, so they're like almost fighting each other. So it's almost like it's gonna take somebody to unite them, and it's like, oh well, I wonder if Luke smirks over there. I wonder if it's gonna be Rand next episode, like announcing himself as a Dragon Reborn, and then maybe the Shan-Chan are like, all right, he's cool. We can work together.
I just know.
My
I just
money's
think
on
in my
Hopper.
head.
Hopper, nice.
They're definitely getting the king or whatever you want to call him is definitely getting played like a fiddle for sure. I do genuinely believe they have these.
Who?
Who are you talking about? Turok?
Long nails.
Long
the bald
nails,
man
yeah.
with the long
Is he
nails?
not
Okay.
a king?
No.
No.
There's the emperor.
High
Lord.
that we've heard
He's
about.
the commander, basically.
Implied king, from what I've seen. He looked like a.
He's like a royal, not like a
Yeah.
king.
He's like the commander of their kind of advanced force. Like he's the highest ranking Shan-Chan on the continent at this point, but
I mean,
they're not from the continent.
I just think he's getting played like a fiddle, obviously, because he obviously has no idea who Ishi is. And it kind of makes sense with how he would want the Horn then to help fight the Dark. So it kind of makes sense. It is interesting. I mean, I feel like this is we've brought it up in a podcast definitely before, that just like we have all these factions, and like some of them overarching do have similar goals, but then there's like these sub goals.
Yeah, that's what makes Wheel of Time fun.
Yeah, because obviously, sure, them and the Aes Sedai could work together and be a powerful force, but obviously how they view one another is complete opposites.
There's a lot of like,
while also being similar at the same time. Like what they
Yeah.
want to do with Rand is exactly what the Shan-Chan are doing with, or what the Aes Sedai want to do with Rand is exactly like what the Shan-Chan are doing too.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of this next storyline when we get to Kyrian is a lot of that too. It's, you know, obviously some strange bedfellows, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of deal. So
that's what I'm thinking of too. Is like the White Cloaks was another faction that we know the White Cloaks are anti-dark, but they also hate the Aes Sedai. So it's like,
yeah, and they're anti-Shan-Chan, and it's like,
yeah, they're anti-Shan-Chan, but they're also pro-light. So
yeah,
complicated
it's
weave,
weird.
baby.
Yeah.
Complicated weave.
Yeah.
One super small line. She says, "Unite every person on this planet under the light." Is it like a known thing that they know the entire planet's like geography?
No, that was an interesting thing for me too. It's never like, in my opinion, there's like, I feel like there's definitely like a known world, and like we don't know. I feel like we don't know like the quote unquote backside.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like they know that like the Io Waste, like the mountains are there, and then the other side is the Io Waste, and the Io Waste goes somewhere, and like there's another settlement, like group of people, kingdom, whatever the hell you want to call it, on the other side of the Io Waste that's like very loosely involved in the story, but like that's kind of it.
I think
Gotcha.
Game
Like,
of
there's a lot-
Thrones,
there's-
like
Yeah,
east
there's a lot of unexplored.
Essos. You know what I
That's
mean?
what I was figuring, or that's what I thought. Like there was lands they probably didn't
Mhm.
know about or knew was there, but they didn't have any information. But the way that she said, like everybody under the planet, I was like, oh, so do they have everything on the planet mapped out if they're trying to unite them? So
Yeah, it's honestly part of that, and again, I'll probably hit the quota for the unreliable narrator. I'm sure it gets mentioned once on every single Wheel of Time podcast, but the idea as well, Ishamael brings it up, of like there's so much knowledge has been lost, et cetera, like where we're at now, there's such a limited amount of knowledge of what's actually going on, everything like that. So in my opinion, they wouldn't know everything about the quote unquote planet. It's not even like really introduced so much as an idea of like the planet.
there's a small village on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
No idea this is going down.
Exactly.
They're just chilling.
we're on our own planet on this island.
That's true.
I was
Although
thinking-
technically it's heavily implied that this is Earth.
Yeah. My
So-
My One Piece comparison for the episode is Turok definitely is giving Big Mom vibes in terms of like wanting to unite everyone at the dinner table, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah,
Wait,
that's a little bit of shoehorned in, but okay. Well, we got our Convergence Malazan one, so.
Kyle, you just saying that is interesting because we knew that was kind of a thing, but now it's like, all right, if this is Earth, where is Falme? Like, what did that used to be? Like
Falme,
Egypt or something like that? Or
I almost want to leave it to the show to potentially drop any of those book hints. They're like super small. Like I never noticed them the first time. I just like read a Reddit post. Yeah, people like compiling all of them, but they're like really in between the lines hints of like historical things that have happened on Earth that are like myths and legends essentially that have been passed down. Which is cool. Okay. So we're going to move to Kyrian. This is our last bucket, our biggest bucket. Lots of water to drink out of this bucket. That did not land. So we're going to start with Liandrin, just the opening one. She kind of has a little bit of an isolated, self-contained storyline. 2 scenes. We're going to smash them into one because that's the easy way to talk about them. The premise, the lead up, the intro is Liandrin arrives at the Domitred household and wants an audience with Barthanes.
Dragon Mount was wrong, right? Dragon Mount was wrong.
Another instance of me feeling like a fucking idiot.
We're like, you hear it there, you're like, dude, that's right. It's obviously right.
Last episode, I'm like, I really like this guy. I could see him being a great king one day.
Yeah.
So I take those words right out of my mouth and just fucking shove them down my throat.
Before we get deeper, question for you: you've always been on team like there's way more dark friends out there. Like we know characters currently in the show that are definitely going to be dark friends. He is now obviously one of them. Mm-hmm. Does he fill that quota for you, or are you still feeling
was like
that
feeling? This was like a small dark friend reveal.
Yeah,
this is kind of more so making me feel like it's just like a reminder again that really anyone close that we know can be a dark friend. And so this wasn't nearly the itch that I was getting. There's still going to be that one big one that I'm just going to be like, should have known the whole time that you were a dark friend.
But that's the key is like you just said, it's a reminder. And this fucking like blew my mind. I didn't see this, even though you told us that Moiraine's sister potentially could have been because of the conversation you had on Dragon Mount, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. I didn't see this coming at all, even after that conversation. After that conversation last podcast, I just assumed that if it was going to happen, it was going to be the sister.
Really? You didn't think they were going to keep it true to the books?
No, I just thought the way that the show was going, like how this was happening, like I thought it was, I guess it makes sense because you even brought it up, like they were giving this guy so much screen time with the sandwiches and like my favorite aunt, like all that. I should have seen this coming, but sometimes I'm a victim of just the moment.
The herrings worked on me because I was like, this guy's genuinely a good dude, because I feel like the dark friends that we've seen, I mean, the Pat and Fane was probably the biggest reveal, but that didn't hit us that hard because Pat and Fane had only been introduced at the time as like the cart guy, whereas this has where Barthanes has played. Sorry, is that his name, Barthanes?
Yeah,
he's played a bigger role.
Not a great one, but
it's not a great one, but he's definitely gotten a lot of screen time, like you said. And I feel like this was the first character that it was like we got attached to. Shit, he's a dark friend,
Yeah,
totally new.
Go ahead, Paul.
All the time, Kyle. We were just on the same wavelength.
Your content is more important than mine, so
I just knew that Mumsy was going to hear everything. The way that she
did.
Yeah, I mean the way she talked about like how she like kind of made it through everything, and she was resilient and resourceful. I knew she was. I had a feeling she was going to be able to figure out a way to listen in, but I was also taken back a little bit. Because the way that they rose to power was because Bart became a dark friend. And that's how they rose. So I was kind of like, all right. So Mumsy thought that it was all her and it was her hard work that did everything. I'm like, oh, I'm sure that breaks her heart a little bit.
Yeah. It was Darth Bart the whole time.
They had a name of like Kyrian royalty almost too already, so it's not like it was just like from scratch like some of the other dark friends goal is like
that's true. They were like a completely like disgraced house though, so
sure that's,
but you have a leg up obviously
you're
right.
I'm surprised in my head when I heard that he was talking about we wouldn't be anything without me turning to the dark side pretty much. I kind of was like, I'm surprised Moiraine didn't, I guess. I know she's not home enough, so maybe that's I'm answering my own
she's so
question
one
enough.
track minded.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, how would she have gone, like, leaving the house in a disgraced state and then come back to it being like so
Decades,
prosperous?
though, so you don't know.
I feel like she totally believed her sister, and like obviously, I feel like her sister Anvir also showed her in the small amount of scenes we got in episode 4. I'm gonna throw it out there of like all the eyes and ears of hers. She knew about Rand and Celine, all that kind of stuff. That probably was enough for her. And she's just, like I said, it's so one track minded. Things are happening around her that if they're not related to the Dragon Reborn, it's like, cool, good for you, man.
And so, Kyle, do you
Wish
think the name of this episode, a big part of it, did it have to do with this storyline? Like, I don't know.
Like essentially, of like he played Daes Dae'mar, aka the Game of Houses, through the dark, and that's how he won.
She was connected to it too when she talked to Rand for the first time. So I guess it's that. I don't know. I thought it was a weird name for this episode.
Yeah. It's a
Game of Houses. Is that okay?
It's the Game of Thrones. Like it's
they had the awesome line Liandrin had that said, "Remove her from the board."
Yeah.
So that kind of went into it, and like she's a player, like make her not even eligible anymore. So
it's
cool aspect.
Literally Game of Thrones. Like that's
so
like
stupid. I didn't even think of it like that. Oh my god, I'm so dumb.
I like the.
He's like
I
pointing
like
at the
R
painting. He's
master.
like, remove it from the board. I'm like, what? Take the painting down or what? I'm so stupid. Holy shit.
I like when he says R master, and then the music. You just hear the music kind of drop and it get more intense. And I was like, they did it. This is like 100%. He's a Darkfriend in the books. He's really not a huge character in the books. You kind of like hear of him tangentially. They get an invite to his party. He's throwing a little bit of a banger. And they go, but they know that he's a Darkfriend type of deal. So they're kind of like on edge. And this kind of worked to maybe a little better just because we knew him beforehand. So I feel like the twist reveal type of deal worked better. Interested to see what happens with him. We kind of leave him and his mom. She's like, don't tell anyone. She's like, it's too late, baby girl, baby boy. Like I told everybody, the guards are there. I do like how she puts a little respect on Moraine's name where she's like, you know, Moiraine is Moiraine, but at the end of the day, like there's two things that she understands, the difference between right and wrong and how hard it is to do something that's right. And she's obviously, I think, speaking to herself in that scene as well of like, that's something she learned from Moiraine. She's putting that lesson into action right now, which I thought was a very little sweet moment.
My son's a Darkfriend. There's no saving him. Like I got to do what's right.
Was it implied that she killed him at the end there?
No, I didn't think so. At least I thought they were just like guards there, maybe outside.
So
Maybe they executed him
to
in
like
there,
imprison him. I figured they imprisoned him, didn't kill him.
I ain't seen nobody.
But I don't think when Liandrin says at the end, you know, even if your mother hears, like, get rid of her too. I don't think it seemed like he wouldn't have never gone through with actually getting rid of his mother. It seemed like he actually really did love her. And he was saying, like, I did it for us so we could, you know, rise. I did it for you, basically.
Something I'm thinking about too is what is going to be the aftermath of like the failure. Like if he's in the cell, failed the mission, is still alive. I'm wondering if they do anything with that. We'll see if he comes back. I feel like he could be a fun little character that they can keep the thread going for like they can milk a little more.
We just
out
see
of the storyline. So I'm
him
curious.
next to Logain, like in the asylum, like, hey, first time, like he just got in.
With no hands and no tongue.
My question is, maybe I missed it, but why was Liandrin there?
She's in Kyrian because Siuan's there with all of the Aes Sedai. Because
but like, why did she visit Moraine's house? As just
she visited Moraine's house because she knows Daenerys is a Darkfriend throughout whoever her channels are, and she had an order to give him.
What was the order?
To kill
Moiraine off the board. Yeah.
Take her off.
Are you watching that
painting?
Take her painting down from the
Yeah. He's like, go and redo this decoration. That's your mission.
I thought because it was
kind of like it was a moment of opportunity. Liandrin is already in Kyrian. Someone will say Ishamael, Lanfear, someone gives her an order, like you're in Kyrian, go give this order to this lower Darkfriend to kill Moiraine, essentially.
I'm also sensing a little bit of tension between her and Moiraine that's just more deep-rooted than Liandrin and Moiraine. Like, because she shows up to the house and she's like looking at the painting. She's like she's all pissed off at it. Like, what, did I say sexual tension? I didn't mean
no, it's just like I feel like, there's tension. I mean,
well, no. I mean, like, yes, but I mean just deep-rooted tension because obviously we know Liandrin's situation that they both kind of grew up in similar situations, that they were both wealthy. Obviously, Liandrin
was poor.
Was she poor? I thought she was wealthy and got wed off. or was it?
My understanding was she was poor, but that could be.
Okay,
that
well
could be
then
book
that
branding.
helps me honestly double down
Yeah, a
on
little
that.
jealousy.
Because if she grew up poor and then had to deal with all like the paternity of men just like putting her down, like, you know, had the child and all this stuff. Meanwhile, Moraine's living this fruitful life of not having to worry about all that stuff. And that's why I'm kind of like tying it is like Liandrin's going here, not just on the will of the Dark One or whoever. Like she also wants to do this for herself to kind of just
Personal vendetta.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have a very interesting idea of Liandrin's agency, which
I don't know where I can't. Get
I
a read
enjoy.
on it.
I don't. I'm
can't
not
get a
saying it's
read.
right or wrong. It's just interesting the way that you think about her character. It's also it's a testament to the show because in the book she's just one note, like she's just a straight dark friend loser, hate her guts. But they've really kind of humanized her a lot. And Rand is hot. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
Can't read
Dave's
the top
notes.
one, but yes, I
Yeah.
can read Rand.
That's Dave's notes. It was like, is there tension between Moiraine and Land? And Rand is hot. That's Dave's notes.
Rand is hot.
All right. You want to talk about sexual tension? We'll talk about sexual tension as we move 20 years into the past with a little bit of de-aging CGI. And this is young Moiraine, young Siuan, a little bit of a little lovers, not a quarrel, but a classic, honestly, conversation that a lot of people have had in their lives of, I really hope your parents and your family like me. They're making all these big plans now that the Aiel War is over. So we get another breadcrumb about the Aiel War 20 years ago. Dots are connecting here. And they're kind of completing, after they get a little kissy kiss and they talk about their future, this little mission, which happens to be informing this new older Aes Sedai. We meet Gitara Sedai, that the Aiel War is over, and they get a little more than they thought they were going to get as they walk into this woman's chamber just to give her this news, and their whole lives are kind of thrown upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Would that have just happened to anybody? I guess. Like if
No,
No.
because it was
Nah.
the timing of it when you saw the flashes and the parallels with Rand's mom giving birth to the Dragon Reborn. You know, like right?
They mention a line here, which if you don't know, you have no idea. But she mentioned, I think it's Moiraine as this guitar, her eyes kind of glaze over and she starts saying all these things. And I believe it's Moiraine who says, "Are you having a foretelling?" So we've talked about how Logain can see male weaves. Excuse me, I almost just burped all over my microphone. And how that's like a talent, like capital T talent that you have that like not everyone can do that type of deal. Foretelling is a talent from the books where like you get glimpses of the future. They obviously have not, in my opinion and knowledge, they have not introduced this concept at all. They name dropped it here. Essentially, it's a thing of like, you know, however rare it is, 1 in a million channelers have this ability, which is called foretellings. They're completely random. They just come upon you, completely involuntary.
different than Min's ability.
Yes, yeah. And you have a legitimate like look into the future. Like you can
Was
see
it the future
actual
though?
future.
Technically, like it felt like it was happening.
So she's
parallel.
like the way they shot the scene was it's happening parallel, but like she knows that like the dragon is being born and like can see that like he is the dragon type of deal. So like foretelling is kind of like a glimpse into the future of things that are going to happen. Min's is like insanely cryptic, while foretelling is more of like this will happen.
Okay, got it.
They'll get more into it.
Dude, this was epic, and as a book reader, I've pictured this scene a million times in my head, and it was just amazing for me to see. Don't have anything to add. It's just, yeah, this sets off the whole series, and it makes so much sense. Like, this is such a pivotal scene. I didn't think we were ever going to get it because we've already been told about it in words.
This is a new
This
spring
was
scene.
awesome. Okay, which
that's
is the
cool.
only book I haven't. It's the prequel book.
Yeah,
to
this
the
happens.
14.
Yeah, this happens in the prequel.
It's the only one I haven't
Personally,
read. So
I thought it fell flat. It didn't like feel like intense or like a huge heavy weight to me. But I mean, that's just is what it is. That might be my only single complaint about the episode is that
We got the umbilical cord shot again, which was
Yeah, we
nice.
did.
They were like,
Yeah.
dude, the people
Totes.
loved it in season 1. Let's bring it back and show them in the season 2. So it was just, it's wild to see the Aiel. I was just, see that whole scene again and how crazy it was season 1. It is cool, and it does hit hard again in season 2 because, like Luke's saying, it is setting off everything. It's like the Dragon Reborn is being reborn. Like it's a big fucking deal.
It's the
So we've been
Voldemort
talking about this for the
killing
past
Harry's
3,000
parents,
years.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's the moment that sets up
Yeah.
the whole series. Yeah.
And talking about Swan meeting Moraine's family and I hope they like you, or that I hope they like me. It just shows that Moiraine didn't want to abandon her family for all of those years. Literally this night happened. They were talking about their future. They wanted to get a little bamboo hut, which is just adorable. And Moraine's like, I'm not the fucking Fisher wife. You're the fucking Fisher wife. And then all of a sudden they get this, and it's kind of like Dave, what you were saying, like, oh, like was that just like random that it happened to Moiraine and Swan?
Yeah, like
right
if Liandrin was by the
Like,
door, would she have immediately
maybe.
just taken up her sword and been like, all right,
The fucking wheel, man. The fucking
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah,
Maybe
I was
made
going to
it
say, my
happen.
answer to that is purely just the
Yeah, I
wheel
mean, that's-
weaves as the
yeah.
wheel wills.
no,
Yeah,
that's the answer I was expecting. I was just
Yeah.
in my head
It's-
just playing that hypothetical, like if it was
Yeah.
a Marvel's
way it
what
goes.
if, like
It's
what
a
if
cop-out.
Liandrin heard
It's a
it?
cop-out answer, but in this
The
specific
answer.
context of the Wheel of Time, this is the whole foundation of the series.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it's
their
based on
part
this.
to play in
It's
the
exactly like
Yeah,
the
it's one of
Taviran, like
my-
all these moments.
Yeah, it's one of my most favorite like writers, like steroids, I guess you could say, for lack of a better point, that they put in their own story. Like classic example, and we've talked about this before because I feel like I've said these words before of in Dragon Ball Z, where like the Saiyan gene,
Yeah,
so they
Yeah.
get their ass kicked and then they're stronger. It's just like it
An easy
feels
way
like
to
such a
write
cop out.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like part of the story, so like it
Literally,
eventually keeps working and working and
Mostly
working.
weaknesses in other stories. It's actually a strength
Yeah.
in Wheel of Time because it's by design.
No, yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
think it'd be great.
Yeah, I just to
But-
say her words. The baby lies in the snow and cries like the thunder and burns like the sun. We've heard that before, have we not? Tell no one, my sisters. You must find the dragon reborn and prepare the world to follow, which is interesting. And they kind of look at each other and are like, "Fuck." Remember
There goes
that
all the
butt?
plans that we just
Yeah,
had.
remember that
Like,
butt?
that sucks.
The moment Moiraine becomes so selfish,
Mhm.
but not selfish because it's the greater
Oh.
good.
The other thing I wanted to say, so takes me off guard every single time I see Moiraine smile. Like I'm like, dude, I'm used to depressed, like disheveled, haven't done my hair Moiraine, and she
Yeah.
looks so happy, young and naive, if you will. But she's happy and kissing Swan. It's very weird juxtaposition to then just cut to the new Moiraine scene of like shielded.
But she's kind
I
of back
love-
baby a little bit.
I love the meta parallel of like Guitarist and I's having the foretelling, seeing the scenes of Rand's mom having Rand, and it's like also for us, it's season 2, episode 7, cold open, season 1, episode 7, cold open. I didn't notice that until I wrote down my notes. I was like, oh my god, episode
Pattern,
7.
baby. We're getting in
Yeah.
season 3.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's
Just be on the lookout.
crazy.
We're getting some sort of flashback in
Yeah,
season
that's
3.
true. That's crazy.
All right, let's run it.
Okay. Yep. Oh man, my notes are slightly out of order here, but just one little scene. I'm gonna talk, just mention it so that it's like out there in the world. We don't really need to comment on it. Yasuka, everyone's favorite, second favorite, third favorite, second favorite. Brown sister, hands Varen, and Ogier map of the city. Tomas kind of gets the knowledge, the go ahead. He walks off, and as our green trio is a bit suspicious, Yvonne and Maskim vote to follow him. So Yvonne just goes off and follows him, and Maskim is just kind of there with Alana. That's like something that happens that'll brew in the background. The really
No. Hold on. I just made a Harry Potter reference. We can't go past this because we missed it the first time. But
Oh,
Yasuka being Cho Chang, right?
yeah.
From Harry Potter.
Oh my
I cannot
God,
believe
that's
we
crazy.
didn't pick
Yeah.
that up the first time
Oh
around.
my god.
But I had to bring it up.
I asked Emily, I was like, I bet you can guess where she's from. She looks at me, she's like, Cho Chang. I was like, how the
Oh,
fuck?
that's nuts.
It's cool. It's cool.
I just
I'm sorry, Dave. I thought you had to take. Okay.
No, my take was, I guess, the disarray between the Aes Sedai. Like, who was the guy that said, "Oh, I don't trust Perrin"?
Yvonne.
Yvonne. Yeah, just
Yeah,
That's
that's Alana,
interesting.
one of Alana's warders.
I
Yeah,
He's
really
like-
wrote that down because I was like, Perrin has proven nothing but loyalty. But again,
Same with
But not-
Lan
he
though, when they
doesn't know
questioned
that,
him.
though.
Remember when
yeah,
they,
Yeah.
he doesn't know that.
it's
but-
everybody is
yeah.
on
to
the table.
us,
to
No,
do
yeah,
it.
to us, we're like,
Yeah,
Varen's
that's
a
what like I
fucking
wrote it
rider.
down. I was just like, come on, yeah, Varen's definitely rider.
So him, Yvonne going to follow Tomas, that just didn't have any purpose beyond the point of there is
100%.
animosity between all the sisters. They don't really
Mhm.
know. Okay,
I
because
agree.
I was like, what is happening here? Why are they
Yeah,
splitting
we'll
up?
get there later, and he's just not there.
yeah.
Suspicion, not I wouldn't say animosity.
Yeah. And Maskim does, again, to reinforce this point, Maskim's like, I'm more concerned about Liandrin. where the hell is she at? And that gets into the Liandrin Darth Bart scenes, which we already talked about.
Where'd you get that? That's cool.
Oh, that's actually the second time I said it this episode.
Oh,
so.
was it? I missed the first one.
Told him the first time I heard that, I was like, yeah, I love that. We're doing that now.
I got the ball stamp of approval, so I said it again. All right. Moving into finally a reunion between Moiraine and Siuan. So Moiraine arrives in this kind of audience hall that Siuan has set up. She brought her replica Amyrlin seat with her, and they have this little kind of very quick discussion about basically the first scene, about like how far they've come in those 20 years. I think we talk about all of that before we talk about obviously Rand doing that.
Just absolutely love Swan's constant references to like being a fisherwoman, a fisherman back in the day. You know, they were talking about, hey, why didn't you tell me you'd been stilled? And they get into that, and then Swan's like, don't worry, you've carried this burden by yourself for so long. I row beside you from here on out. It's just like, like every single little time she can make a reference, she drops
it's
it.
So
book accurate, baby.
Yeah,
book accurate.
So book accurate.
And then like it's time I met Rand al'Thor. Just like I literally got like a little jolt. I was like, oh, that seems like a big meeting. I'm excited to see this.
Yeah, I was excited to see these two like finally reconnect, but obviously it's not going to be in a way that they want to. Like, this is a business meeting at the end of the day. It's not going to be anything about love, and it's a little painful to see them kind of button heads after being, you know, apart for so long. Swan literally just found out that she'd been stilled in her eyes,
and the thing with about forcing Lan's bond to Alanna as a thing, like she was not happy about that either.
Yeah, it sucks to see them both kind of, because they're both going through it, so it just sucks that they can't really embrace each other before getting out of business.
Literally only called this scene out to like have its own discussion because I wanted to shout out Lyanna Sedai, how she like walks Moiraine in and then gets dismissed and like looks Moiraine up and down with like disdain, and it's just like funny to think like that's obviously in the ideal of like the tower and like the outward perspective, like that is actually Swan's like rider right hand, like Lyanna's like this fucking Moiraine chick, like all this stuff. Like I don't even think Lyanna knows about Moiraine and Swan's like past and their relationship, so it's just funny that like I just like how much of a rider she is.
That was just going to be my question now, is like who all knows about this relationship? Because even
Lan,
obviously,
really
but like
Lan,
it's just that,
it's just crazy that they've kept it a secret for this long. I mean, they were so flirtatious with each other 20 years. I'm sorry,
but that's when they were novices. So they're like, imagine Egwene and Elayne back in a couple episodes ago when they're just kind of like walking around the tower as novices together.
Yeah.
Right? Were they novices there, or were they already accepted?
They kiss her in that scene too, though?
They might have been accepted.
They were accepted because they were talking about retiring soon, and then they were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna."
You're gonna go to your king, and I'll go to my king.
They were talking about advising.
I think
the
they were
daughter
sisters because they talk about the ring, they talk about the gowns. They're literally wearing the blue covered gowns. So if they were accepted, they would have been wearing the white with the rainbow cuffs.
They were talking about Elayne being born, though, right? Because they were talking about, and we'll advise the daughter heir when she comes.
The daughter heir is like kind of always a thing. Type of
but like the timeline checks out. It's like 20 years of searching, and then Elayne is I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
No,
that's the way I took it. It was like, Elayne is born.
Yeah, is Elayne older than Rand? Because that was literally the day Rand was born.
They're actually a lot younger than I thought. I'm just now realizing Moiraine is way younger than I probably was under the presumption that she was.
We already told you it's not like hundreds.
It's
tough. I know,
not like
she's like, but still, like it's still even with that knowledge, it's younger than I would have thought, to be honest, still.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry.
My glitching anyway.
Laptop is opening different tabs. Okay.
Your internet's buffering.
You're being ishy on us right now. Are we in a dream right now?
Yeah. Does it work? Okay. Looks better now. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. All right. So as Paul mentioned, Swan's like, time for me to meet Rand al'Thor. But before we get my favorite scene of the entire episode, which I have been absolutely crying out, begging for, and I mentioned at the end of last episode. So Rand is standing outside of this audience chamber, and Lan, the man, kind of prepares him to meet the Amyrlin seat. Just so many good quotes. I literally teared up when I fucking watched this scene for the first time. This is easily my favorite scene of the whole episode. I feel like we'll let everyone else talk, and then I can give my
Just
piece
the
on
land
us at the
piece,
end.
or when he gets into
Yeah.
the chamber.
I'll say before he gets into the chamber, just all of him in the land conversation.
All right, let me steal all the good lines real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Do your thing, dude.
Jill reaches for the sword and Rand dips away and he goes, "Oh, Heron dips the wing." Like, I see you've been
Would you
studying
have
your moves.
said Rand
Nope, I
dips
wouldn't
away?
have.
Okay.
Nope, 100%.
If you didn't know the move was called Heron dips the wing.
Absolutely not. I just had that in my head because I was reading my notes. And then you guys talked about this before when we were talking about the moves. You were like, cat crosses the courtyard. That's the one you want to look out for. And Lan says Lan says to him right here, if you're going to use a move, use this move and keep your back straight, blah, blah, blah. It was just the whole training aspect of it was really cool. And it honestly hit me harder this episode because I knew that you were looking forward to Rand and Lan interaction. So I was like, all right, hopefully we get something a little cool here. And just I hope they train and bond a lot. And to jump forward, where we see them leave off, maybe they will. They're gonna have some time together. So
Land. That's their name together. Land.
Yeah. How imaginative.
How about Rand without the D?
Rand will work too.
Ran all four.
Is that your only thought on this scene, Dave?
Yeah, pretty much. Land's the man.
No, they just have. I'm craving more, to be honest. I need a little bit more, but it is nice. Like, you could tell Rand looks up to Lan a little bit, and he absorbs the information. He says, "Whatever you see, face it on your feet." Like all these little tidbits.
Lan was always the one kind of calming Rand down early in season 1 when Rand was kind of freaking out about Egwene. Like, where the hell is she taking us? And Lan was always kind of the voice of reason that Rand kind of
watch your
respected.
tongue, sheep herder.
Yeah.
So the beginning of book 2 is they're back in Faldara, and like Rand is kind of internally freaking out. Like, he's been this season, he thinks he killed the Dark One, but he can still channel. So he's like, everyone wants to kill me. And it's Lan and Rand kind of training with the sword in Faldara, and then like the Amerlin shows up. And Rand's like, oh my God, I gotta get the fuck out of here. You know, they're here to kill me type of deal. And eventually it gets to a part where like he has to, like, things happen, blah, 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 blah. And he has to talk to her. And him and Lan have this like almost exact conversation outside of the audience chamber in like the beginning of book 2. And I remember rereading the book being like, dude, like they might skip this shit. Like, it's the beginning of book 2. Like, we're not even in Faldara. Like, we're not going to be in Faldara. Like, Rand ran away and like it's not going to happen. And the fact that we got it was just so awesome. I think one of the most famous quotes from the entire story, one of mine, is like Luke had kind of mentioned it. There's one rule above all others for being a man: whatever comes, face it on your feet. That is something that like Rand like really internalizes throughout like the entire story, and it's like really shows that connection that him and Lan have. And that honestly is Lan's like life story. Basically, like, he has an insanely difficult life and past, and his whole family died, and his old kingdom and country's been swallowed by the blight. He's kind of like a lone ranger in this fight against the Shadow, and him and Moiraine match up, and Moraine's fucking been dicking him around this whole season, but like he knows in his head, like, there's one rule above all others for being a man, is whatever comes, you face it on your feet. And like, he embodies that so much. And I also love, again, he's speaking this kind of sense, this mentorship, this kind of emotional rock almost, when Rand is like, I left to protect the people that I love. And Lan's like, dude, like, you can't be that selfish. Like, you're the Dragon Reborn. You were born to protect this world and everyone in it, not just the ones you love. And like, I feel like Rand really needed that slap in the face almost. That's of like, so you can't just run because you're afraid of hurting people you love. Like, you have such a higher purpose. Like, you can't think that small. Like, you're the guy. You're our guy. And you need to start acting like our fucking guy. So he sends him into the room. And I love how, again, Siuan, we can move right into that basically, is he's so formal in the beginning of the interaction where he's like, I'm here, mother, whatever. And she's like, oh, I see Lan prepared you. And like, it's exactly how it happens in the book. Like, he like pours like 2 drops of water, and they have this whole argument when Lan's like, it's 2 drops, like, before they go in, and he does it all. And Siuan just smiles and it's like, I see fucking Lan sunk his talons into you type of deal. So we can move right into that scene. I love the Rand and Lan interaction.
Yeah, this was just an interaction that I guess subconsciously have been just like very much waiting for, because we have like, if not the most powerful Aes Sedai who is in charge of the White Castle, which Rand has obviously been so fearful of and dreading to want to like be around and whatnot. So this was an interaction that I just really love seeing. Like as soon as he walks in the door, I'm like, this, like ears were up. I was just like edge of my seat. I was so ready for it. And yeah, it was interesting seeing how in the very beginning, he's very formal with her, and then how once she's kind of letting it slip of the plan of how they want to use Rand, he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be formal anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. And again, this is just kind of the only other thing I really had here was just the thing that I brought up earlier, was that the Amyrlin Seed is trying to cage him like the Shan Chen are caging Egwene, really. And everyone thinks they're all so high and mighty and better than the other person, when in reality, it's just everyone can be a dick. Like, sure, you're fighting for the side of good, but you got to think about, the humanity of the thing. Like, you can't just have Rand just shielded until the moment you need him most and just like release him like a nuke. Like, that's just not how this is going to work. And I think he's making a good case for that here. She is also kind of making a good case for it in the sense that it's like, okay, you're going to go mad. We need to really watch you. Like, you don't have any control of your powers. We need to be the ones watching you at all time. I get it. But obviously that's just not how you're going to train someone like Rand. He's just going to be stubborn. He's going to fight every way if that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, super hypocritical, honestly, it seemed like. But I love the line where Rand's like, oh, what if I don't want to be a spoke in the wheel anymore? And she's like, dude, you freaking moron. You're not a spoke. You're the water that turns the wheel itself. Like, you don't get to, and it kind of going off land, like what he was saying, face it on your feet. She's like, dude, you don't get to just like not want to be it. You are a key part no matter what you want. And yeah, just the way she was getting into, do you know what the like Tower Law says that the Amyrlin Seat must do when they find the Dragon Reborn? I thought she was going to be cool about it and be like, oh, like, I'm not going to do that though.
We throw you a fucking banger.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Paul.
So, and then, the way that she just throws the shield at him too. First when Rand is like powering up, I'm like, dude, are you seriously? Do you think you can? Come on, man. What are you doing?
I won't live in your cage. I love that line.
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool guy. Like, it's like a rat saying that. Like,
yeah,
you're
gonna shielded.
Yeah, you're gonna be held in the cage. She's like, dude, how many months have you known? And you have literally learned nothing. So that was cool. And then just the Moiraine and Lan conversation outside. I was just like, dude, Moiraine, stop being such a dick to Lan, man. I thought you would be cool. And she's like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Like, you put everything in the whole battle in jeopardy because of this. But I just love the whole time Lan is super concerned about her. Like, only 2 women in history that have been cut off that didn't kill themselves. Have you ever thought of that? And then that builds on Moiraine being like, I never once thought of that. Like, she can't lie either. So this is the truth. Like,
that was a great line from her.
Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Like, of course I haven't. I have way too important of a job to do. And
did you see a smile after that?
I didn't.
Like, that he was like, okay, That's awesome. That was like him really starting to believe that she is not stilled, that she's actually shielded. He literally smiles after she says, like, I never once considered it. And he's like,
that's cool. That's a cool little pick.
Yeah,
we were talking about this last episode, pushing the boundaries of the oaths that you take when you become an Aes Sedai. So if you can lie, then you're not shielded, you're stilled. To go into that land is reading into that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, this, like how Kyle felt about the other scene, you guys already took like a bunch of the great pieces of this scene between Rand and Siuan, which is natural. This is we get the trickle down. It goes through Dave and Paul, then it gets to me, and then Kyle cleans it up. But I'm gonna bring up a line that I know a lot of people hate it, which, accepting the fact that this is an adaptation of the source material, I've already gotten over it from season 1. But when Siuan says to Rand after being disappointed, she's like, this is all you know after 6 months. This is pathetic of, him having of channeling. She says, we would have been so much better off if you were a girl. And I know a lot of book readers are sitting there like, ugh, that's a cringy line, because the idea that
true though.
Well, yeah, no, 100%. That's very, very true.
Yeah. It almost is a shock like that. I heard the madness
and the training.
Yeah, it's almost a shock that when I heard it, that no one, and maybe they did, and I didn't catch it, that like no one ever said that in the books.
It's true. It is.
It feels like it would be like the Aes Sedai complete mindset of like it totally blows that this guy has to be a guy.
It's a
It's
valid
Liandrin
take.
thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I was getting at, is that it's a thing that the dragon is a guy. So that's what pissed people off in season 1 when they were doing the whole mystery. Is it Egwene or Nynaeve? Like that was never an option, and that was always a gripe. So this line is kind of like a whatever, fuck you to the book readers. Who cares? Except that it's like that, and it's actually a good line, just like you're saying, Kyle.
Yeah.
Besides that, the only other thing I like that Paul was kind of hinting at, like, the Tower Law is saying the Dragon Reborn is supposed to be used in the end of the last battle, but Swan goes on to say not as a general but as a weapon, and that just probably pushes the wrong buttons in Rand, and I'm ready to see how he reacts to that going forward, because he's already very questionable about all Aes Sedai. Took him up until this point to even trust Moiraine. Like, these are not the things you want to say to the Dragon Reborn as you're shielding him. A lot of this is like kind of probably triggering him. So this was a really well done scene. And I was looking forward to Swan meeting Rand like this, and it was cool all around. And then as far as the Moiraine land scene, yeah, you guys hit it pretty much. I don't think I have anything to add to that. I am happy though that like Moiraine goes back in right after that conversation and talks with Swan, lumping this all together, and says that cool line, how the plan was after that cold opening for 20 years ago, Moiraine was going to go find and prepare the dragon, and then Swan was going to get the tower ready. That's just like cool, because like that's always the plan, but it's just cool to put into words. So I like that.
One small thing, just praising the writing of the show, and I just loved that Perrin and Moiraine were talking about, what was this, episode 2? The sisters want to clip the dragon's wings, and we didn't really know what that meant, but it kind of planted the seed that, maybe being at the tower isn't the best thing for Rand. And then, finally, however many episodes later, we get the reveal of what clipping the wings actually meant. Like, we're going to shield you and use you as a weapon. So I had that in the back of my mind, constantly watching the episode, seeing what the tower's real purpose and real plan was. So it was cool to get that little payoff. So just, maybe they're not doing everything right, but there are a couple things that really do feel good to be a viewer with, like, fresh eyes.
But Rand's a peacock.
Yeah.
Gotta let him fly, dude.
Gotta let him fly, baby.
I just love Swan. I think she's a fantastic character. Sophie Oka Nato, and that is so not her name. Sophie, I believe, is her first name, but she's fucking awesome. I just love the little, again, when we were saying Rand is so formal at the beginning, she's like so nice and smiley. And then she's like, they're talking about these things, and then she just like drops, and it's like so deadly serious. And I love that she can flip that switch so well. I love the fact that they use the words general and weapon. I just like that made me giddy thinking about like the series as it goes and Rand's place and everything. And
Lieutenant.
Yeah, well, yeah. We don't fuck with lieutenant. Sorry to our We'll blame it on the French. We'll blame it on the French, the lieutenant stuff.
Thank you for commenting and educating us, Lieutenant.
All 27 comments.
No, we did it on purpose so we would get all those comments. No, we're not idiots. We knew that. We knew that.
We had no idea.
No,
But yeah, Dave, I just love your point too about like those parallels between the damane, the Soldam, the Sean Chan type of deal, where she's like, we'll only have you channel only what we want and when we want. And it's just so interesting that last episode Rena goes to Egwene and it's like, oh, so like the Aes Sedai don't have slaves, all that kind of stuff. Like that mindset is just very interesting. They're paralleling them. And then the last thing that I'll say is that I thought it was kind of interesting that Swan is like, you left the fate of the world to chance for your pride. And I was like, bro, where's your fucking belief in the wheel, baby? The wheel wills as the wheel wills, baby. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills. Like, that's all Moiraine had to say. Like, what do you mean, girl? You forgot? Have you lost faith in the wheel? That would have been my comeback. That's all I got to say. Oh, and then it's just interesting that the plan at the end game for Swan is to announce Rand as the dragon in front of like the world, basically, when Queen Galdrian returns. They'll have 14 Aes Sedai with them. Yeah, they'll have 14 Aes Sedai with. You're talking about the White Castle?
Yeah, White Castle.
Nah, I think she said here in Cairhien.
Oh, did she say Kyrian?
Yeah. In the Sun Palace.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're
the Sun Palace of Cairhien. They didn't name drop that yet, but I'll drop it for you. Okay, so we'll move into kind of the aftermath of all of these conversations. Is that Rand is now shielded. He's placed in a cell. Lyanna Sedai is holding his shield, and his desperation, you can say, in the moment. leads him back to who else but our girl Lanfear. And I mean, hey, that's exactly where I would run as well. So I would say there's a little bit of like an Alana Mascom scene in here, but I'm thinking we talk like we meet Rand in the cell all the way until Lanfear busts through the foregate in all white and throw just fucking ripping fireballs.
I mean, I totally understand why Rand is so whipped for Lanfear because she is just so sexy, man. Those boots were doing it for me when she's just sitting on that throne.
Both outfits.
Yeah, they're great.
I love it when you try and manipulate me.
Great line.
That
Great
might
line.
be the so many quotes of the
Yeah.
episode.
I was cracking the fuck up when Rand's in the cell and he's shielded and he's talking to Moiraine and he's like, it feels like Moraine's like, yeah, I fucking know. Okay. Like, you don't need to tell me. Like, I know exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's just nice every time they drop little lines about rules of channeling. Moiraine says she needs to channel to keep the shield in place. That was just going into, we're not supposed to know about tying off knots and shields and stuff like that and all of that. So we got the answers a little early, like Kyle was saying before, but I honestly am glad that we got it then, so we're not like sitting around like what the fuck's going on and all this other shit. So I don't know, I liked it a lot, just seeing the keeper, what's the right hand, is that her name?
Or Leon.
Lyanna,
Yeah, Lyanna, just again, she's probably just so happy that she's there to do this. She probably loves making them like suffer because, like you were saying, she doesn't like Moiraine and she is Swan's right hand. So she was definitely enjoying it.
She's super powerful, and her thing in the books, which Kyle, I know he has mentioned at least maybe back in season 1 or coverage, her thing is she is just the hottest girl in the world. Like,
really,
every time she gets talked about, it's like, oh my god, like she's so
she's like
attractive.
tall, long legs.
Yeah.
Her like, I guess ethnicity. She's damane, which gets very confusing in the audiobook with the damane.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
the worst. It's the worst thing ever, honestly.
Yeah, but their like whole shtick is that like they're like masters of seduction. Like they teach women like from a young age. They're just like, that's like their like, it's a very cultural thing for them. So Lyanna's just like a very sultry, like attractive, just like woman who like turns heads type of deal. I get it in like a different way from her actress. Her actress in real life too is like a badass chick, and I think she fits the role really well. I'm excited to get more of her.
It reminds me of Francesca just from The Witcher. She's supposed to be like the most beautiful elf of like all time. They say that every time in the book.
Show.
Yeah, I was gonna say what he's supposed to be.
Luke's obsessed with her. So I love the reveal too that they're talking about why, like Rand is telling Moiraine, yeah, I know they're trying to get me to go to Falme, but I want to do it anyway because they have Egwene. And then, they kind of put it together. They want me to go to Falme because that is where the dragon is supposed to proclaim himself, which is really cool. And the Forsaken want to proclaim him. And then, we're thinking they kill him right away. So the whole world knows there is no hope. And they're like, wow, I'm trapped in, a cell by the Aes Sedai. The Forsaken would totally hate that. Maybe we use that to our advantage. So the only thing I had a problem with this of him like calling for Lanfear's help to cause a distraction was Lan just had the line like, hey, don't be selfish. You're supposed to protect the people of this world. And then by calling Lanfear, they just kill probably like 100 people, if not more. So
necessary collateral.
It's like, the bigger picture thing.
But also,
sacrifice a few for the many.
I brought this up last episode. From their perspective until this moment, what has she done on screen to our characters that would signify that she's pure evil? Like, or if she even is, like, I'm just saying in general, like, how would Rand know besides the name, besides that she has the title Forsaken and like the mythos around it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, all she's ever done is she tries to manipulate Rand all the time, but like in a way that is for her gain, I guess.
Her trance on Luke is working.
Oh,
she's trying to trance Rand, and it's catching up Luke.
Talk about Wheel of Lanfear, bro. This is the best show ever, man. She's the best.
I saw a very funny tweet that was like Rand going to her in the dream world was like when you missed the bus in middle school. and like you have to like go ask one of your parents to give you a ride to school. It's like, hey, I'm kind of locked in a cell in Kyrie. So
she's like, you didn't even make it out of the city, bro. And he's like, come on, I need your help.
Yeah, that was
if
great.
only Egwene had a Forsaken to help her out with her situation.
luck.
Maybe Renna's a Forsaken.
Yeah.
Who knows?
She's not, to our knowledge, she's not the reincarnated boyfriend or girlfriend of some fucking powerful Forsaken.
My boy Ishi's gonna save her.
Maybe. And Lanfear's rampage was interesting. I thought it was just very fun. She looks great. I thought the CGI looks really good. I just love the line of 3,000 years pass and I'm back to this, which is just very interesting.
I had that written down. What do you? Could that?
I'm thinking of like her in the War of Power, of like talking about the Shadow, just like fucking cities up and shit like that.
Did she say I'm back to this or we're back to this? Because that's a big. Because in my how I took it, and this I could be completely wrong. I thought it was too much of a coincidence of her showing up to like the castle gate and saying like 3,000 years and we're back to this, like saying how in whatever it was 2 episodes ago when she was saying how technology hasn't even caught up to where they were when the world broke 3,000 years ago. I thought she was saying like we're still fucking doing medieval castles, like we're back to this. That's how I took it, but I could be completely wrong because what you're saying also makes sense.
Yeah, I took it as like 3,000 years and like I'm back to, pretty much laying siege to all these big castles and cities, and I guess it wouldn't have been castles, but
either way, the point's cool regardless because it's just like her talking about her being living through multiple ages and seeing this.
My note underneath it is just she looks so hot and evil.
Does she not look like Sansa Stark a little bit, Sophie Turner? Did you get any of that?
A little bit. I can see why you.
Dude, she's the hottest, man. I love her.
Sophie
much.
Turner or Lanfear?
Both. But Lanfear, Natasha's overtaken Sophie.
Sheesh. All right. So speaking of hot, we're gonna get to hot. Well, now we got to get to some. I guess. Yeah.
Talk about Perrin.
Yeah. No. There's hot involved here. So. A lot. So Maskim's like hanging out in the hallway, checking himself out on his knife. I feel like obviously he's acting that way more than he actually is that way type of deal. But essentially, they lead Lan to Dave's favorite character. Or no, is he 3? Is he 4? Is he 5? Who knows? We'll tune in next episode when you get our updated character rankings.
True.
So a Lan and Logain interaction was not something that I was anticipating or expecting. I thought it went hard. A lot of good quotes. Just a very, I think, productive scene as well. So I think a lot goes on here. I assume we'll have a lot to say, but you know what they say when you assume.
Biggest drop, which was a huge info dump and would have been nice if we kind of got a little reference to it earlier, but Lan is like, hey, I am told that you can see male weaves and all that stuff. So
we got references to it.
There was,
I guess it was kind of tough, like when you're with us when we're like, this isn't how it is in the books, and then we're kind of confusing you type of deal. So
I mean, even without that, it goes against everything for him to be able to see weaves being stilled. Like that just doesn't make sense to me still, even though like he's special and has that ability. That doesn't explain why he has it. So
I also agree.
So it just didn't make sense. So we're like watching all these episodes and we're like, this doesn't check out, this doesn't check out, this doesn't check out. So I just wish they dropped something earlier. And if the whole drop was that he saw Rand while he was in the cage, I don't know, that seemed more of a plot hole than it did, an info drop at the time. So,
and for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure this is considered a talent under that same bucket as foretelling.
Yeah, capital T, baby, talent.
They're just not like, I think what Paul's saying is like just for non-podcast listeners and like just casual viewers. They haven't even dropped the word talent yet, have they?
No.
Yeah, so
how convenient it's obviously not, it seems to be revealed at this time.
Like having a talent isn't touching the one power. It's just like a power that even if you were stilled, you can still have access to.
Yeah,
apparently,
yes.
This stuff is the gray area of what they're changing, what they're keeping, because the books don't even use the word talent that often compared to. I mean, they do, but whatever.
Yeah, they do.
Keep going.
But this was a great land scene, baby, because he really baits Logain here just to try and get him to feel, he's in a good spot, like has the upper hand on him, and then at the very end, Lan switches it on him. He's like, I will never forget what you did to our sisters. Like, you're a piece of shit. You can just rot here for all I care. You're never going to experience death. You're just going to live out your days like this. That was just a great hard line from Lan to
Got
just
some-
rub it in Loghain's face.
Got some brown sisters that want to study you. Like maybe I'll just let them have you.
Yeah.
I love Loghain because he got Loghain back a little bit because Lan's like, I mean, to Loghain's credit, he's not very clear about what he means when he's like, what do you see when you look at Moiraine? And he's like, a desperate, lonely woman who has given her life to a cause beyond her understanding. And he's like, it's madness is asking me for a straight answer, motherfucker.
That was great. I love
wild card. Yeah.
I loved that line, to be honest.
Yeah,
I was
really funny.
A little bummed out that his description of it sounded amazing. He was like, there are weaves on it from a man, thousands of strands pulled together, held in place, but nothing being channeled into them. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And then they kind of show Rand what he sees, and I'm like, that's like 7 weaves, man.
It's a CGI budget. We'll talk it after the CGI budget.
I know. I was a little upset, but it is what it is.
I loved Loghain's
description of it.
Yeah, his little reenactment of it too. He's like getting his little cloak around himself. He's like crunching over. He's like, it looks like this. Looks like this. That was great.
Question for the Rooks here. Do you think this is the last time we see El Profesor, Loghain?
I mean, I want to say no because I feel like he barely taught Rand how to channel.
You could argue he didn't teach him dick.
All he said is you got to grab that shit, and then it made Rand puke after. So big old baby spit up.
Yeah, it was more of a baby spat up. But yeah,
he's definitely coming back though.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Because this is a big free ball change from like Loghain's character is one of the bigger changes, I would say, is like how the showrunner wanted to treat him. So that's the only reason I posed the question. All
right. So the next scenes are in somewhat of an awkward kind of cadence progression type of deal. So let's take Verin arriving and kind of pulling the fast one on Lyanna. And then the three of them, this is Moiraine, Verin, Rand, walk outside, are greeted by these newfound allies, at least in Rand's mind. And then the last kind of part is Siuan and the other Aes Sedai link type of deal. So maybe let's talk about Siuan on the other side of linking very quickly, only because I know it's not going to be a big conversation. I just thought it was very cool that they did the storm cloud, and it looks really cool. And then they dampened the Four Gates fires. Lyanna arrives, and she's like a little confused because she's like, hey, didn't you call for me type of deal. I don't know how much we want to talk about that, but I feel like we'll talk about it more maybe when we talk about actually Verin. So
that seemed like the weaves going into creating the rain. It seemed like they actually did have some blue or some green to them, which made them like, oh, that's the earth weave and the water weave or whatever combining to do that. So I like Kyle, you've been saying it, the effort going into the weaves this season minus the 7 weaves that were shielding Marines.
My thoughts are in terms of linking. Like the first thing I obviously thought of was the finale of season 1. Yeah, obviously for you guys. But
we don't talk about that.
So the woman there that is linking all the at the end of season 1, is she just not experienced enough with linking to be able to control it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was
so not weak. A sister.
Yeah, she was so weak they kicked her out of the tower because she couldn't even become a novice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. No, that's just the only thing I really thought of was when
that's like handing a machine gun to like a toddler is what she was. Versus Siuan, you're given, like she's a trained fucking military expert, like with.
Oh, and speaking to also, Paul, with what you were going into with the weaves and seeing the colors, was it? I'm pretty sure when Rand is face to face with the Amelin seat, you can actually see him pull some of the fire.
Yes, you can
from
the red weaves. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just more attention to detail.
We're getting, and we'll talk about it a little later. How about I'm going to stick a pin in that in my own mind.
But
I'm going to
Rand's
say this out loud so that now we all know that the pin is there. Yeah.
Are we done?
Okay, now we're
that?
talking about it.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Well, I'm just saying. So yeah, Rand in the books is like a big fire guy. So
yeah, I mean we could.
they've done a good job, I think, of doing that.
I was
That's
talking
subtle.
about this earlier. I was like, do we know if he specializes in one or the other? So that's cool that we
Yeah,
got
but it
a
wasn't
little-
cool when you said it.
Yeah, it was way more like exploratory and like hypothetical. but
Yeah,
we've
now
seen
we
it
got
now.
some concrete
Yeah.
examples.
All right, so we're gonna move slightly back in time just because I like these two scenes. Just we're big Varen fans. Varen kind of arrives, orders Lyanna away, and then there's a lot of there's a couple good quotes here. Varen, I feel like, is ripe for good quotes, and then we meet outside, a couple more good quotes. So just those two scenes together, and then we'll take like the real ending of the episode. Will be the ending of our episode as well.
You are very clever with your words, sister. Which Moiraine knew right away. This keeper bitch for being the second hand. Sorry for the B word, but
We drop
I
it
don't
too
know.
much. We drop it too much.
She wasn't.
Morgan says we.
Yeah,
She wasn't-
you were working on it.
She just wasn't ready. She wasn't thinking in enough. And what Varen said is the Amerlin seat needs you to protect the people. Is that what she says?
It's the Amerlin requires your strength to watch over Kyrian, and I've been told to watch the boy.
Oh, well, okay. So when she says I've been told to watch the boy, is that like her
Just
saying
like the Aes Sedai, watch over the Dragon Reborn, don't let him escape. Like that would qualify as her not lying.
Yeah.
okay. I was gonna say, was it like her warder who was like she's like, oh, I've been told to watch over the Dragon Reborn, but
Yeah.
you know, it was actually my boy that told me to go watch over him.
Well,
Like that's not
Valid
a
as
lie.
well. Valid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is
cool.
again back to episode 2 when Varen's like, I'm not a big oath gal. Like, there's a lot of
Mhm.
ways to circumvent the oath, and we're almost seeing here in this scene, like she's a master
Yeah.
of circumventing. And Moiraine, like you said, calls her out on it. Like, damn,
That's awesome.
you wild.
Waygate hidden in the city and the whole Yasuka giving her the Ogier map. Just really cool. You know, glory
Yeah,
to
it
the
came back.
builders. Glory to the builders. They're the best. And I just absolutely love when they're in the courtyard getting their shit together and then Lan and the rest of the crew runs up. It's just, is it Varen or is it, I can't remember. I think it's Varen. She just looks up and she's like, the wheel weaves, man. she's just like, yeah, speak of the devil. It's the same thing.
This is a
Pound-
great Avengers Assemble moment, honestly. Just all of some of the OGs coming back together. We get Moiraine, Rand, Lan, like everyone's coming together. Some of the new friends that we've made along the way, Varen and her trio and her squad of warders, like love this interaction here.
Just second, like screen time counting and like pound for pound, Varen's like the GOAT. And
Yeah.
in the books, like Kyle knew I was such a stan for Varen. Like always. She's just the shit. Like the second Lyanna walks out of the room, she unshields Rand like in a second. And they're like, holy shit. Because she knew about the prophecy the whole time. And then she knows about the other part of the prophecy when they're all outside the Waygate. And she's like, oh, like talking about revealing the dragon like at Falme.
Yeah, and
Like
the
she
banner
knows
across
about
the
all
sky,
this. Like
yeah.
that's just not only just Varen, like the Brown sisters in general. It's just a really cool part of their faction within the White Tower. I love seeing her. I hope that she continues, her actor continues to get a lot of screen time going forward in future seasons because she stayed behind, right? Didn't she go back
Yeah.
after they all squad up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like in this last thing I'll say before we move into like our OG people moving to the Waygate is that I like how Alana honestly like makes a point to look at Moiraine and is like you're not alone anymore, like in this journey. And I feel like that and Moiraine probably wouldn't let that show ever, but I feel like deep down that actually does mean a lot. Lan even says to her earlier, again on this theme of like, you need to trust somebody. Like you literally cannot do this alone type of deal. So I like that we're kind of in Avengers, like we're building a little bit of a squad here, which is very fun for sure. All right. The real important people of the squad, though, move to arrive at the Waygate, which is Rand, Lan, and Moiraine, and just a lot of shit. A lot of shit goes down here. So let's just completely open the floor. This is our last scene of the episode, so let's just go gung ho.
I think we break it up
after
at 4 and after Swan shows up, just to ease the
Okay.
conversation.
Sounds good
I
to me.
just utter pain between Swan and
As he doesn't listen at all.
sorry. I thought you said yeah.
Never mind.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Was
Well,
that
it's, I
not
mean, we've
happen
talked a little
first?
bit about that. Well, it's more like Rand takes the shield away, essentially.
With more red weaves, it looked like,
Yeah.
you know, a
He
little
pulled
bit.
like there's like a torch from the torch that he has.
Let's
This is
go.
like this is a
That's
scene
awesome.
to highlight the acting though, is what I kind of really wanted to point out because
Yeah.
like Rand, as soon as he like embraces the source, I guess I shouldn't even say embrace because that's more the female side of it. As soon as he takes hold of the source and grabs it to break the weaves, I thought he just looked badass. Like he just decided, all right, I'll do this. I'll try this. That whole thing was really cool. I don't know. I just this is like, again, free balling it from the books. Like this was not there before, but this is when we see the combination of him pulling from the air, the fire, plus the taint. So like that triple coloring of it was
pulling
really cool.
from the taint.
Oh, the Dark One's taint, baby.
Love it.
That whole thing was sweet, but we can open up the whole thing. I don't.
No, you're good.
No.
One thing I want to say about this, I loved the visual hesitation of his weave was really cool. I thought that was like the music's hitting and like Land is like giving him the confidence to do it, and it's just like so good.
And they can't see how hesitant he is, so he's like going up to it and then retreat, like pulling back just a little bit and then going. So really, really cool. There were so many cool things about this scene that really made it special. Just.
Oh, you got the taint on your mind, don't you?
I do. I know. All I can think about is taint. I'm like, don't lie.
Out of this world.
Moiraine,
was great.
Moiraine saying "I trust you" was, I feel like, one of the best lines of the show because she really does, because she can't fucking lie. So if she trusts Rand to be the Dragonborn, even though they just got done with Siuan saying like, "Yo, you haven't learned anything, you can't channel." I don't know. I thought that was. After Moiraine has been so distant this whole season, it just felt reassuring to feel like Moiraine actually trusted somebody, which Lan had that line earlier. You need to put faith in somebody. You need to be able to trust somebody eventually. If it wasn't me, maybe it'd be Siuan. It's great to see that she actually trusts Rand. That's really cool after all the shit that they went through.
This was Lan's, like, his stocks were, I was craving a little upshoot in the stock value.
Talking about one of the best quotes, man. As soon as she's able to get that shield off, looks right at her, and what does he say? "I'm sorry it took me so long to do my duty." Like, after this whole time she's been treating him like garbage, but he knows it's not really her.
Gotta take it on your feet, baby. I'm waiting for the other amazing Land quote. We'll get it eventually, and then we can all cry together, and we'll call back to this moment. Season 2, episode 7. On September 29th, 2023 at 9:40 p.m. Okay, so we're done with kind of the emotional moments, and we move now into let's take some action. So Moiraine channels and opens the way gate, and I love the shot of Lan and Rand behind her as she's like embracing the source again and channeling. And it's like Rand is over her right shoulder and Lan's over her left shoulder, and it's like this is the fucking team right here.
This
like
feels
these are
right.
Yeah, like these guys are gonna fucking save the world, I believe so hard. And then Siuan arrives and totally throws that feeling and thought into complete disarray, tosses a shield on Rand, fucking throws Lan against the wall, and then fucking calls back to season 1, episode 6, I believe, of the oath that she swore, and just kind of chaos, honestly, at this point breaks out front of this way gate, and we can just run it now, I would say, until the end of the episode.
If you've ever loved me, don't do this.
Oh my god.
And Siuan's like, "I command you to close the way gate." And just the it's really good acting because she's showing that she's trying to resist, but also portraying that she can't. And I don't know, I just thought it was great. And the absolute sadness in Rosamund Pike's like face as this whole thing is going on. I mean, she's so good at showing emotion for somebody who never shows emotion, if that even makes sense. Moiraine is such a complicated character. I mean, I don't think the show would be the same without her. She's absolutely killing it. And if we're going more into it, I just want to say one more line when Lanfear comes in.
Which one?
Lanfear comes in. And is gonna take out Moiraine, and Rand jumps in the way, and he's like, no, not her. Like, come on. And she says, "Every day you grow more like Luce." Which,
all right,
I just need to point out that I made fun of Dave for calling him Luz.
This is exactly what I was gonna say.
Was that what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
I was like,
this is the time to talk about it.
How are you pronouncing it? Are you saying Luz? Wow, I thought it was loose. like the goose is loose.
It's
That is what I thought.
Like your
LEWS,
taint is
right?
loose.
Yeah, I got that with
LEWS.
subtitles this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Well, you,
Um,
Paul, you were like, "Oh my god, that's so much worse. Lose is so dumb."
I thought lose. I don't know. It just seems
Now
like
you're all
he's
over the place.
destined to suck if his name is lose. Whatever.
Loose isn't much better.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
He's loose,
I mean,
dude.
you'd much rather
Not
be tight.
tight.
You'd much rather be
Oh,
tight.
come on. He's
Look at
got
that guy,
no
dude.
stress. He's loose as
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Like, oh, you know my boy tight? Yeah, he's tight.
yeah. You rub his shoulders and like, wow, you're loose, man.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Is there a comment made here about Siuan potentially not being as powerful as she once was? I feel like I feel like I had a note here that like kind of implied from either there was like also a quote earlier in the episode too that made me think that she's not as strong as she was. Like I think Moiraine here before she's like
Lanfear says at the end, broken Amerlin's more useful than a dead one. Is that what you're talking about?
that, but there was like another quote that I'm pretty sure Moiraine kind of says a little bit earlier, but it just made me think that like I was under the assumption that the Amelin seed might be going through something where she's just not.
I mean,
as strong as
Moiraine
she
does
once
say
was.
like, basically tells her like not to square up to Lanfear, and then she and I mischaracterized them last episode where she has like the kind of headdress of
Knives.
it's water because like Paul mentioned she's more of a water person, and then she has
Oh,
like the
that's cool.
whole fucking collection of water knives around her, which was really cool.
Also,
and
it's-
obviously
We get
Lanfear
a
just
little
kinda
flick,
flicks
another
her.
little
Yeah,
flick.
she
Yeah.
just
Lanfear.
flicks
So
her.
that was going to be my
Jesus,
comment is that
movie.
it's just crazy that there was definitely time for the Amelin seed to like do all the weaves and then produce the knives. Like there was like there could have been some time there that Lanfear took advantage of, and she did. She just immediately flicks it away, which to do that to the Amelin seed is just crazy to me.
This is Mihawk showing up at the Barati.
Yeah,
This is
Barati,
what
eh?
this is.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing that anybody there can do to stop
Yeah.
Lanfear at the smallest whim, and
Maybe
not
that's
just
what-
Lanfear, all of Forsaken.
Maybe that's what I was harping on, Kyle, is the fact that I think Moiraine specifically tells her just to not fuck with Lanfear.
Yeah.
And so maybe I just kind of took that as like you're not as strong as you used to be, but
Yeah.
everyone's just not as strong compared.
Yeah.
She's like,
I
you
mean,
have
yeah.
no shot.
The whole paradigm has changed at this point. Like they thought they were strong, but now they realize what like true strength kind of is, type of deal.
And this is the most common complaint I saw when I was like scrolling Reddit or Twitter or whatever from book readers saying Moiraine would never go with Lanfear. I'm skipping to the end when they all go through the
Yeah.
Waygate together. Moiraine would never do that. This doesn't happen in the book, so there's no situation that we could even compare this to. She has no fucking choice.
Yeah.
Moiraine
Yeah.
could fight her ass off. She could do whatever she want, and this is a flick to Lanfear, so it doesn't matter. And that's my like chirp back at any book readers that are really upset with Moiraine's decision making here, because it's either let Rand walk into the Waygate with her or die. Like
Yeah.
try and stop her, and you're gonna get flicked.
Yeah.
Because Moiraine's not as strong as Siuan, so it's like what I don't know. I don't understand that complaint that I've been seeing consistently from book cloaks, but like whatever.
I
It's
totally
just so different. I think it's
Yeah.
just kind of tough sometimes.
I totally agree with you though, Luke, that like she has to do this. Like there's no choice. And this is gonna sound ridiculous, but like playing Baldur's Gate, like I'm
Sounds
talking
great,
to
not ridiculous.
walk into a scene and this dude's killing everybody, and it's like, all right, you can either tell him to stop and he's gonna fight you and kill you, or like you just kind of have to go along with it, otherwise
Blindfold.
you're done. So yeah, just like say nothing is one of the options. It's like, yeah, Moiraine literally has to like say nothing right now because she can't do anything.
Mhm.
And I didn't say this earlier, but I just love seeing the actual oath rod action, like restrictions in action.
Yep.
We're seeing actual oaths be enforced here, so that was really cool.
Yeah, we've never
Um,
really seen someone like that we know try to lie, and we know they're
Yeah.
trying to lie, and like they physically can't speak it. So that was cool.
This
No,
was like the first instance, which was
This
really
was
awesome.
one of the coolest things to see come to life from the books, because like Kyle just said, that's my exact example I was going to say. You can't visualize that in the books, and the way we physically got to see it, this is the first time anybody that's a Wheel Time fan got to see something like this, and it was, I think that reinforced the idea really well.
And people like me and others were like a little weirded out that they made her swear on the oath rod for this like kind of somewhat flimsy like reason of like, oh, I can't tell you why I was out of the tower. Like, okay, you're excommunicated, you have to swear on the oath rod. Like, they don't really use the oath rod that way ever in the books, but I think it coming full circle to be able to like show us that visualization of it, I think ended up paying off in the end. So
I
I'm
think
satisfied.
Yeah, it was great. And I think my last comment on the episode is that when Lanfear actually hits Swan and she says, a broken amulet is more useful than a dead one, we don't see Swan move at all. We see the blood coming from her nose. And I'm like, is she paralyzed? Like, can she not like walk? And that's what Lanfear meant when she said broken. Can she even channel? Like, is that what she meant? Like, because we didn't see anything after that. Like, maybe she somehow shielded her in the middle of that, and then that qualifies her as broken. And then the only thing I could think about is, if the Amulet Seed is broken, then is somebody going to have to take over her role? And oh my God, I really fucking hope it's not Liandrin. Like, is Liandrin going to usurp her? Because she had that line to Elena, the keeper. Liana, I'm sorry. I always mess this fucking two up. I know.
Good. Well, there's an Alana, there's an Elayne.
That's what I was thinking of. I always mix them up. And then because she had that, Liandrin had that line to her saying, like, one day, you're not, I forget what she says. I don't know why I'm trying to bring this quote up exactly.
I'm with you that, like, I'm kind of harping on like the broken part. Like, is she talking about that she just, like you said, did she just still her? Did she just, cut her off from the power? Did she break her back or something? Exactly. I have no idea. I don't think Liandrin would be the first choice for. I don't know how it works on who gets quote unquote voted into being the Amelin seat, but I feel like there's enough Liandrin hate to not allow that to happen. But there's also a lot of Swan hates, and she's still on the throne. So
Black Aja, man, Black Aja can make things happen.
They totally missed an opportunity, they being Robert Jordan. It would have been funny if, like, when they get a new Amerlin, like, the color of their old Aja, like, comes out of the fireplace.
Like the Pope.
In the White Castle. Yeah, like a new Pope gets elected, and it's just, like, red smoke comes out. It's like, oh, we got a red one. That'd be kind of funny. My last comment on this scene is that they fucking knew what they were doing when they were giving us the flashbacks, and Siuan says, Moiraine, please. And then Lan from behind her says, Moiraine, please. And then the flashbacks start, and it's like, what a decision. It's like, oh my God, I just want to crumple into a ball.
Yeah, utter pain. Like, we were cruising through the episode, and of course they got to let us hurt a little bit at some point during the episode. Before
we get into MVP, LVP, the last thing I want to say is this was a weird episode for me because, again, like I've said multiple times, it's so different from the books that, like, it felt a little odd on the first watch of, like, man, this is so different, but it's good, but it's so different. This also weirdly felt like a Game of Thrones episode, and that like there's obviously way more magic and Wheel Time's more like fantastical type of deal, but like, I don't know, like all of like the reunions and like the squad ups and like the implications of like big moments, things were happening, like, oh my God, like the Amerlin seat and the Dragon Reborn have met, and we're moving characters around, and like things are happening, and Lanfear's rolling through the Forgate and blowing shit up. I was like, this literally feels like Game of Thrones level type of stuff, which was really, really fun.
No complaints from me. This is, again, if we're comparing it to Game of Thrones, we're about a couple episodes into season 2. So if you're thinking like reunions matter now, just imagine what it's going to be like when we all.
No, I mean, the 5 hasn't been together. In so long. I mean, we've seen.
Well, Rand's the final
little
piece
interactions.
Right now.
We've seen Rand interact with Matt a little bit, and so on and so forth. But all 5 need to get together.
And I agree with you, though. This has been the most different from the books, but I am in love with this show now. Like, I'm at that point where I fucking love this show. It doesn't matter all these changes yet to me. Like, nothing has been as crazy as the season 1 failure of the changes, like those pieces of it. And it actually, I wanted to bring this up now, so I have it up on my phone. Rafe Judkins, the showrunner of Wheel Time, did a Q&A kind of thing on Twitter yesterday, or maybe it was either yesterday or 2 days ago. Yeah. And it was before this episode went live, and there were definitely worth reading all of his replies to different people talking about things. But the 2 things I wanted to point out, and Kyle, this one's mostly did you have a chance to read them all?
I did not.
So this one's mostly for you. Both of these are actually mostly for you.
I love that.
So there's three I wanted to bring up. Two are quick. So the one was, is there anything to look forward to in tonight that you're like really hype about? And it was Cat Cross the Courtyard. That was the first thing.
Want it up.
The second thing he said was, someone asked him, will we find out why Loyal survived? That's the biggest gripe I have so far. And I'm just sitting here like waiting for more to figure out about that. And then what Rafe said was, we all have scars we bear from COVID. Loyal was applied right to the chest whenever he shoots without a shirt. So I think that's the acknowledgement that what they swept under the rug with Podon Fane's knife in the beginning of season 2 with all of them, Messina, Uno, and Loyal, like they just said, yep, that's a book. That's a season 1-ism that we're just
they took that one on the chest. Like, that's us. Yeah.
And then the third one was, what's your favorite episode of the season of the finale? So that's a lot. So basically it's all of it was positive. Everything was reading from Rafe, going back and forth between fans. Definitely worth checking out his Twitter feed from 2 nights ago.
All right. Does that get us into MVP, LVP?
Yeah.
Luke, and I also
you got to
do
start
it real quick. So Egwene, I already gave my reasoning for why she was amazing. That line read and just her being awesome was just always there. LVP, I'm actually going to go with Siuan, but only because of how, like, direct, nothing to do with her and Moiraine, all about her and Rand and how she was trying to cage him. And that is something that really frustrated me in the books. And I think it came across well in a good way here, where she's really pushing against the main character. And like, I don't like it. He doesn't like it. And it really showed on the screen. So Siuan's going to be my LVP for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. MVP, I'm going to do Elayne because, man, when she tells Nynaeve, we tried your plan, we're doing it my way now. I was just like, take charge. She's awesome. I just love the way that she handles everything. And then LVP, I'm going to do friggin' Bart, the worst king to be. Yeah. What's his actual name? No, that's Bartholomew. That's what I'm thinking of. What's his? Barthanes. Yeah, more like Bart Anus. He sucks. So
hey, got him.
All
right, that's it. I guess that's all you needed, Bart Anus. All right, Dave, you can go.
No, let's give it to you. I feel like you're last every time. I'll let you go. As long as you don't steal my one LVP.
Okay, my MVP is going to be Lan, the goat. Got a lot of emotion out of me. His fucking lines, like every time he opened his mouth, was just like boom, boom, impact, statement, bang, bang. So he was, I think, legitimately batted 1,000 for this game, for this episode, which was awesome. And my LVP, this is tough.
What's the warder's name that followed Tomas?
Yvonne.
Yeah, he's the LVP. Wasted time, follow Tomas.
Yeah, this is tough. My LVP, we'll say Liandrin, just because who does she think she is?
She wanted that fucking picture off the wall.
Take that picture off the wall.
Yeah, the board off the wall.
Yeah. Terrible interior design thoughts. And like, we're just passing off this thing into Barthanes to Darth Bart. Like, you failed that. We'll see what your repercussions are. She disappeared. People are now suspicious of her. So it's kind of like things are getting out of control for her, it feels like. So screw her.
We haven't even talked about like the repercussions that we'll have on Liandrin, like, because the mom obviously is going to let it. She already has technically, I guess, let loose that Liandrin and her son are Darkfriends. Maybe she keeps it to herself. I don't know. That would be stupid. But you gave your 2, right? All right. MVP, 3 of the 4 were taken, so it makes my life a little bit easier here. I'm going to go with Varen. Pretty straightforward, very easy. I think that's the second one I've ever given her. I wanted to give it to Elayne or Egwene because I've never given it to them.
Yeah.
And then once you guys went, I was like, all right, I'll just go last. So
I was thinking, I thought you were going to say Lanfear for some reason.
No, it was Elayne, Egwene, Lan, Varen.
For what it's worth, I have always had Lanfear in my top 4 MVPs. In case I was last and they all got taken.
Yes.
Do you write them down?
There.
Do you guys have them written down?
I write all 4.
I'm just such an on the fly guy.
Yeah. I only had 2, so that's why I jumped in. I was like, I go next.
I do them on the fly while we're recording. And
that's
4.
I do write 4 out. So who's your LVP?
LVP is just the easiest one to give it to is Rena. I just feel like anytime she's on screen, she could just deserve an LVP. She got one last episode. And yeah, she's definitely going to get killed by Egwene. So that's if so facto.
All right. And you know what else is ipso facto is that we have one fucking episode left, which is insane to think about. We have the finale.
I might as well be gentled.
Yeah, after, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully our wait is another 2 years, but we're gonna fucking worry about that once after we watch the episode. So I'm sure that'll probably be our longest episode ever. This is already a pretty long one. So I'll wrap this up very quickly. As always, we're just so appreciative of everyone that reaches out to us on X, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, everyone just watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. It's just so much fun. I mean, we obviously have fun when we record these, and it feels like you guys obviously know that. You get that, like, the energy off of us, but we like talk all the time about all of like the comments, and we read them, and like we try to get to all of them, but sometimes it's literally like we read one we love so much and we're all just talking about it like in texting, and then we don't actually respond to it. So just know that, like, if you wrote a comment to us, we've seen it. We might not respond to it, but we love it. So one episode left. We're going to keep riding this train all the way until the end. And yeah, we're Bingetown TV. We already gave our little Gen V plug, but we will be covering Gen V on Amazon Prime as well. So if you're a Boys fan and Wheel of Time fan, obviously go check out our coverage, especially if you like this coverage. I'm sure you do if you're listening to, this is our 2 of this podcast. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy your weekends, enjoy your week. We'll see you for the finale. Love you guys.
JJK will be out soon, don't worry.
Oh yeah, also that.